Imagine a world bathed in the warm glow of a Cretaceous sun, about 66 million years ago. Earth was a vibrant mosaic of life, a dynamic stage where giant creatures roamed amidst flourishing ecosystems so lush they seem almost otherworldly to us now. This was the Late Cretaceous period, the closing chapter of the Mesozoic era, often affectionately called the Age of Dinosaurs. To truly appreciate the drama and scale of life in those times, we must transport ourselves into that ancient world where the air was thick with the scent of abundant plant life, and massive beasts, both familiar and foreign, shaped the landscape with their presence. Across vast swathes of what we now call continents, the planet was a wonderland of green. Dense forests dominated many regions, consisting primarily of flowering plants, conifers, ferns, and cycads. The proliferation of angiosperms, the flowering plants, had transformed terrestrial ecosystems, offering new ecological niches and food sources for herbivorous creatures. Unlike today, fern and conifer forests blended with vibrant pockets of flowers in a continuous tapestry of greenery. Such botanical richness was the backbone of the Cretaceous world's energy flow, sustaining herbivorous dinosaurs in their many forms and sizes. The climate during this time was generally warmer than today's climate, with no polar ice caps and elevated levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Warm seas crept deep into continents, forming shallow inland seas that were teeming with marine life. This warm, humid environment was a haven where sunlight filtered down to animate the biosphere, nurturing plant growth and encouraging the diversity of animal life. Rainfall patterns were influenced by the arrangement of the continents, creating localized variations in humidity and enabling a wide range of habitats from coastal floodplains to dense woodlands. Dinosaurs flourished as the dominant terrestrial animals, rulers of this lush kingdom. Their shapes and sizes varied tremendously. Some were towering herbivores, like the massive hadrosaurs with their duck-billed snouts. Others were armored like the ankylosaurs with bony club tails. And then the terrifyingly agile and sharp-toothed theropods, such as Tyrannosaurus rex, commanded the food chain. Each dinosaur occupied a unique ecological niche, from the small, feathered species that exhibited early avian traits to the colossal, long-necked sauropods, which, though less dominant than in earlier periods, still roamed in certain regions. But the world wasn't just dinosaurs. It was alive with an extraordinary abundance of life forms that created a complex web of interactions. Early mammals, small and mostly nocturnal, survived under the shadow of their dinosaur contemporaries. These were timid creatures, but evolutionary pioneers nonetheless. Early birds, descended from theropods, filled the skies with their agile flight, bringing the promise of avian diversity that would later flourish after the dinosaurs' extinction. Reptiles beyond the dinosaurs also thrived, including crocodilians inhabiting riverbanks and swamps, and turtles swimming in freshwater and marine environments. In the water, life thrived in an equally spectacular fashion. Vast inland seas were inhabited by colossal marine reptiles, such as mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, apex predators that ruled the watery realms just as dinosaurs ruled the land. The shallow epicontinental seas were also teeming with ammonites, spiraled shelled creatures akin to the modern nautilus, and schools of fish that formed the foundation of this aquatic food network. This world was a vivid tapestry of life, bound together by ecological interactions that spanned continents and oceans. The balance between predator and prey, plant and herbivore, and the myriad forms of aquatic life all contributed to a dynamic system that had flourished for millions of years. Geological records and fossil evidence reveal this richness in astonishing detail, allowing us to reconstruct a living, breathing planet, vibrant with color, movement, and life forces. While we often think of dinosaurs as giants lumbering through open spaces, the late Cretaceous world was far from static or simplistic. Ancient flowering forests grew alongside ancient cycads. Rivers meandered through floodplains teeming with life. Cactus-like plants flourished in warmer, drier regions, and underwater reefs built by rudest bivalves thrived beneath sunlit waves. Insects buzzed and pollinated flowers, small amphibians croaked near the water, and reptiles of all kinds basked on sun-warmed rocks. The vibrant complexity of ecosystems is fundamental to understanding the natural history of Earth during this era. Life was interwoven in a delicate balance, maintained by evolutionary processes spanning millions of years. It was under these conditions that the dinosaurs' remarkable reign reached its peak, and flora and fauna had co-evolved in intricate and beautiful harmony. As night would fall over this ancient landscape, with the distant calls of dinosaurs echoing softly through the forests, a gentle breeze would ripple through the thick foliage, stirring life in unseen ways. It was a world full of promise and mystery, a starkly different Earth from what we know today, but one that set the stage for an extraordinary story yet to unfold. In the next part, we will delve deeper into the true dominance of these fascinating creatures, exploring the diversity of dinosaurs and their roles across the continents. These giants not only shaped the ecosystems, but also influenced evolutionary pathways that extended far beyond their time. So, let's continue our journey through time, immersing ourselves in the reign of the dinosaurs, where massive creatures roamed the Earth, and every corner of the globe was a stage for life's endless persistence and adaptation. As we move from the vibrant world of 66 million years ago, teeming with life and color, let us now turn our attention to perhaps the most iconic residents of this ancient Earth: the dinosaurs. Their dominance during the late Cretaceous period was unparalleled, shaping ecosystems across every continent and carving out ecological niches with staggering diversity and complexity. Far from being a monolithic group, dinosaurs were a broad, varied clade that occupied a multitude of roles, from apex predators to gentle giants, from scavengers to fleet-footed runners, an intricate cast of creatures that ruled terrestrial life for over 160 million years. It is important to understand that by the late Cretaceous, dinosaurs had already reached a remarkable evolutionary maturity and diversity. This period marked the twilight of their reign, but it was also the zenith of their proliferation. Dinosaurs occupied nearly every type of habitat imaginable, from lush floodplains and dense forests to semi-arid regions and coastal wetlands. Continental drift had shaped land masses into new configurations, creating isolated populations that evolved unique features and behaviors, further enriching the dinosaurian kingdom. The theropods, a fascinating group of primarily carnivorous dinosaurs, embodied some of the most formidable predators of their day. Among them, the tyrannosaurids, particularly Tyrannosaurus rex, have become emblematic of the late Cretaceous predatory niche. Towering nearly 12 meters in length, with incredibly powerful jaws and keen senses, T-Rex was likely an apex predator that hunted hadrosaurs and ceratopsians, though some evidence suggests it might also have scavenged when opportunities arose. However, tyrannosaurs were just one branch in a rich family tree of theropods, many of which sported feathers, a reminder of their evolutionary link to modern birds. Smaller theropods, such as dromaeosaurs, think of velociraptor, used their agility, sharp claws, and intelligence to outwit prey, exhibiting behaviors that hint at complex hunting strategies. On the herbivorous side, hadrosaurs, often called duck-billed dinosaurs, were among the most abundant and widespread. Their specialized teeth allowed them to efficiently process vast amounts of foliage, supporting their large body masses. They frequently traveled in herds across vast floodplains, their social behavior perhaps providing protection from relentless predators. These dinosaurs often showcased elaborate crests and other head ornaments, possibly for communication or species recognition, painting a picture of social complexity. Then there were the ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs, with Triceratops as the most famous example. These robust creatures, sporting impressive facial horns and a large bony frill at the back of their skulls, were likely formidable herbivores capable of fending off predators. Their daunting appearance, combined with strong jaws and specialized teeth, made them well adapted to their role as both grazers and browsers on tough vegetation. Adding another dimension to dinosaur diversity were the armored dinosaurs, such as ankylosaurs and nodosaurs. These quadrupedal herbivores boasted thick, often spiked armor amid bony plates that covered their bodies. Ankylosaurs took defense to another level, with club-like tails capable of delivering powerful blows to deter predators. Their slow movements and heavy armor made them the tanks of the dinosaur world, perfectly adapted for a life spent grazing in relative safety. Sauropods, the colossal, long-necked giants, had declined in diversity by the Late Cretaceous, but still played a vital role in some parts of the world. These herbivores could reach astounding sizes, some estimated to weigh upwards of 50 tons. Their elongated necks allowed them to feed high in the tree canopies, accessing food sources unreachable to most other herbivores. Although less prevalent than in earlier periods, certain species adapted successfully to the ecological niches available in their regions. Every continent told its own story of dinosaur life, shaped by isolation and unique environmental pressures. In North America, the western interior seaway split the landmass, influencing evolutionary paths. Huge theropods like T-Rex and various hadrosaurs and ceratopsians flourished here. Meanwhile, in Asia, abundant theropods, such as the fierce Tarbosaurus, roamed alongside diverse herbivores in varied habitats. South America hosted its own endemic fauna, including massive titanosaurs, some of the largest dinosaurs ever discovered, and fearsome abelosaurid predators, illustrating the evolutionary divergence fostered by continental separation. Europe's dinosaurs were generally smaller but equally varied, with island-like ecosystems leading to interesting dwarfism phenomena in some species. Australia and Antarctica, although less explored due to fewer fossil discoveries, harbored unique dinosaur species adapted to their specific climates and latitudes, further enriching the global tapestry of Cretaceous life. Ecologically, dinosaurs formed the backbone of terrestrial food webs. Herbivorous groups shaped plant communities through their feeding, dispersing seeds and influencing vegetation patterns. Predatory theropods helped maintain balance by controlling herbivore populations, preventing any single species from overwhelming the environment. Such predator-prey dynamics fostered evolutionary arms races, driving adaptations such as sharper teeth, stronger armor, and faster running speeds across multiple lineages. Indeed, the natural world of the Late Cretaceous was intensely interconnected. Dinosaurs did not exist in isolation, but interacted constantly with other organisms. Insects pollinated the flowering plants that herbivores fed on, while scavengers and decomposers recycled organic material. This interplay created a resilient ecosystem capable of withstanding substantial natural changes. Until that fateful day near the period's end, subtler behavioral traits emerge from the fossil record as well. Evidence of nesting sites, brooding behavior, and even suggestions of social groupings hint at complex lives beyond mere survival. Some theropods grew feathers, likely used for thermoregulation or mating displays, echoing behaviors observed in modern birds, their evolutionary descendants. Tracks and bones reveal herding patterns and migratory behaviors, underscoring the vibrant social dynamics within dinosaur communities. As continents rearranged themselves and climates shifted subtly, dinosaurs showcased their adaptive capacities, exploiting new niches and radiating into specialized forms. The diversity we observe in their fossils underscores a resilient, thriving group in the last moments before the dramatic extinction event. In examining their dominance, we also start to glimpse the delicate balance sustaining all life at the time, where immense power and adaptability were matched by vulnerabilities that would soon be exposed. The end of the Mesozoic was not just the story of extinction, but the story of a world at its zenith of dinosaur life, rich in wonder and complexity. Next, we will take a closer look at the contemporaneous plants and other animals that lived alongside these dominant dinosaurs. An ecosystem brightly painted with myriad forms of life, from the smallest insect to early mammals and birds, each contributing to the unfolding narrative of Earth's history. As we transition from exploring the diversity and dominance of dinosaurs across the late Cretaceous landscapes, our attention now turns to the rich tapestry of life that surrounded and intertwined with these towering reptiles, the flora and fauna that filled the Mesozoic world. This period, often known as the Age of Dinosaurs, was also a time when plants flourished and early mammals, birds, and reptiles were quietly establishing their place in ecosystems, laying the foundation for future evolutionary histories. To understand the environment in which dinosaurs thrived, we must first step into the realm of Mesozoic plant life, a vibrant and dynamic kingdom undergoing substantial evolutionary transformation. The late Cretaceous is significant as it marked the explosive spread of angiosperms, flowering plants, which had first appeared some tens of millions of years earlier, but rapidly diversified and established dominance across many habitats. Unlike the earlier dominance of gymnosperms, such as conifers and cycads, flowering plants introduced new complexity and novel ecological interactions, reshaping the terrestrial biosphere. Angiosperms brought with them brilliant colors, fragrances, and nectar, evolving intricate relationships with pollinators such as insects, a nascent co-evolutionary dance that would profoundly influence biodiversity. These plants ranged from towering trees with broad leaves to delicate flowering shrubs and ground-hugging herbaceous species, providing a mosaic of food and shelter. Before angiosperms' rise, conifers remained prevalent in many ecosystems, especially in cooler or more arid regions. These cone-bearing trees formed dense forests offering habitats for diverse animal life, including various insects, small reptiles, and dinosaurs. Ferns and cycads, though more characteristic of earlier periods, persisted in the undergrowth, their lush fronds contributing to the visual depth of forest floors and riparian zones. The proliferation of flowering plants had profound implications for herbivorous dinosaurs. Lush foliage meant abundant food sources, allowing certain dinosaurs such as hadrosaurs and ceratopsians to exploit these resources fully. Pollen and seeds from angiosperms contributed to soils, nurturing a reliable plant base that kept vast herbivore populations sustained. This botanical abundance also encouraged intricate food webs, as foliage eaters attracted predators and scavengers alike. Beyond plants, the Mesozoic world was shared by an array of animal life beyond dinosaurs. Early mammals, for example, were small but notably diverse, adopting nocturnal or crepuscular lifestyles to avoid competition with larger reptiles. These mammals, ancestors to all modern mammals, showed remarkable adaptability in the niches they occupied. Scurrying through underbrush, burrowing, and foraging for insects, seeds, and plants. Fossil records include evidence of multituberculates, cynodonts, and the earliest placentals and marsupials, hinting at evolutionary experimentation in body plans and behaviors during this time. The skies were alive with early birds, descending directly from their theropod ancestors, showing the first signs of feathers adapted for flight and insulation. These primitive birds explored niches ranging from tree-dwelling insectivores to small fish catchers, practicing keen coordination and flight control that would later diversify extensively. Bird fossils from the Late Cretaceous reveal species like Ichthyornis, which combined features of modern seabirds with those of their dinosaurian ancestors, threading the line between Mesozoic reptiles and avian evolution. Other reptiles flourished in niche habitats alongside dinosaurs. Crocodilomorphs, for example, were widespread and diverse, not merely the semi-aquatic ambush predators we recognize today, but also swift terrestrial hunters and armored forms in some regions. Turtles also diversified in freshwater and marine environments, some growing to impressively large sizes. Their shells preserved a living showcase of evolutionary resilience. Insects, too, were integral to Mesozoic ecosystems. Early bees, beetles, butterflies, and flies played essential roles in pollinating the flowering plants, decomposing organic material, and serving as a crucial food source for many small animals, including mammals and reptiles. Their interactions with plants created the intricate webs necessary for maintaining the balance of these ecological communities. This confluence of flora and fauna created environments that were not only vibrant, but also intricate in their ecological dependencies and successes. Dense forests provided food and shelter, riverbanks and wetlands fostered rich biodiversity, and open plains allowed large herds of herbivores to roam freely. No creature existed purely in isolation. Each species influenced and was influenced by others in a delicate, interdependent system that had evolved over millions of years. Understanding this context reminds us that dinosaurs, despite their size and seeming invincibility, were part of a wider biological network that included far smaller, but no less vital organisms. Mammals and birds, though overshadowed at the time, were quietly diversifying and adapting, setting the groundwork for their incredible evolutionary story after the dinosaurs' demise. Plants had likewise undergone a revolution, transforming terrestrial landscapes and food chains. As we explore the Mesozoic world further, this intricate balance between species, habitats, and evolutionary trends serves as a poignant reminder of the complexity of life and how interconnected ecosystems respond and adapt over geological time. In our next section, we will extend our gaze into the skies and seas, examining prehistoric aerial and marine giants such as pterosaurs and mosasaurs. These extraordinary creatures filled niches beyond land, adding yet another magnificent dimension to the lush and intricate world of the Late Cretaceous. As our exploration of the Late Cretaceous world continues, we now turn our gaze beyond the terrestrial realm to the skies above and the oceans below, a panorama of life that was just as astonishingly diverse and captivating as the dinosaurs roaming the land. This period was home not only to creatures walking on 2 or 4 legs, but also to extraordinary marine reptiles and winged reptiles that dominated niches in both air and sea. The pterosaurs soaring above and the formidable marine giants swimming below tell a remarkable story of adaptation and survival, one that complements the saga of the terrestrial dinosaurs and enriches our understanding of a vibrant prehistoric ecosystem. Starting with the skies, pterosaurs were the true masters of flight before the age of birds fully flourished. While their ancestors had appeared as early as the late Triassic, pterosaurs diversified significantly during the Cretaceous, revealing an astonishing array of shapes and sizes. These winged reptiles are often mistakenly lumped together with dinosaurs, but in fact, they belong to a closely related yet distinct group of archosaurs. Pterosaurs possessed membranous wings supported primarily by an elongated fourth finger, a wing structure unique among vertebrates. Among the late Cretaceous pterosaurs, some were quite large. The azhdarchids, like Quetzalcoatlus, are famous examples of gigantic flying reptiles with wingspans that may have reached up to 10 or 11 meters. These creatures likely occupied ecological niches similar to modern storks or ground hornbills, stalking prey on land and perhaps snatching fish or small vertebrates. Their anatomy suggests they were powerful flyers, but also adept walkers, capable of moving efficiently on the ground with long, slender limbs. Despite their enormous size, these pterosaurs were lightweight enough for flight, thanks to hollow bones and specialized body structures. Smaller pterosaurs, such as the nyctosaurids and ornithochirids, dominated coastal and marine environments. Equipped with streamlined bodies and long wings, these agile flyers patrolled over the water, swooping down to capture fish and other marine prey. Fossil evidence, combined with aerodynamic modeling, reveals their extraordinary flight capabilities. Some may have even soared on updrafts for hours, much like modern seabirds. These aerial hunters played crucial roles in coastal ecosystems, linking the marine and terrestrial food webs. As birds diversified in parallel, pterosaurs were gradually eclipsed, but they remained prominent until the extinction event. Some species had evolved bizarre crests and elaborate ornamentation, likely used for display or species recognition, adding to the visual splendor of the airspace above Cretaceous lakes, rivers, and oceans. Beneath the waves, the oceans of the late Cretaceous teemed with life. One of the most formidable groups of marine reptiles was the mosasaurs. These enormous, agile sea lizards belonged to the squamate families that include modern monitor lizards and snakes, but mosasaurs adapted fully to aquatic life. Ranging in size from a few meters to more than 15 meters, mosasaurs became the apex predators of their marine ecosystems. Their bodies were streamlined for fast swimming, with powerful tails shaped like rudders and limbs modified into flippers. With razor-sharp teeth and formidable jaws, mosasaurs hunted fish, ammonites, smaller marine reptiles, and even other mosasaurs. Some species likely occupied specialized niches, hunting in open waters, while others preferred shallower coastal habitats. Their widespread fossil remains indicate a cosmopolitan distribution, found in Europe, North America, Africa, and beyond. Closely related marine reptiles, the plesiosaurs, with their distinctive long necks and broad bodies, continued to glide gracefully through the seas. Plesiosaurs evolved two main types during the Cretaceous: the long-necked elasmosaurs and the short-necked pliosaurs. The elasmosaurs used their elongated necks to stealthily approach fish, while the more robust pliosaurs were powerful predators capable of tackling large prey. While mosasaurs and plesiosaurs dominated marine predation, other groups added texture and complexity to oceanic life. Sea turtles were abundant, some growing to impressive sizes, grazing on seagrass beds and contributing to marine ecosystem stability. Meanwhile, smaller marine reptiles, such as marine crocodilomorphs, occupied a variety of niches along shorelines and in estuaries. The seas of this era were also alive with cephalopods, such as ammonites and belemnites. Ammonites, with their intricate spiraled shells, formed vast schools and were an essential part of the food web, serving as prey for many larger marine animals. Belemnites, resembling modern squids but with internal skeletons, hunted smaller fish and invertebrates, and, in turn, fed larger predators. This rich marine biodiversity was intimately connected to terrestrial ecosystems through nutrient cycles and life stages. Migratory patterns, reproductive behaviors, and feeding opportunities often bridged these realms. For example, some pterosaurs may have fed on fish, linking aerial and aquatic domains, while marine reptiles nested along coastlines, sharing land with terrestrial fauna. Taken as a whole, the marine and aerial life of the Late Cretaceous was a testament to the adaptability and diversification that characterized life on Earth during this time. These giants of sky and sea, some rivaling the largest land dinosaurs in scale and influence, demonstrated the breadth of evolutionary creativity. Their existence paints a portrait of Cretaceous ecology as a seamless continuum that extended from the ocean depths to the upper atmosphere. As we consider this thriving panorama of prehistoric giants, it's important to acknowledge that these ecosystems were finely balanced, yet vulnerable. The interplay between species, resource availability, and environmental conditions created delicate equilibrium that would soon be dramatically disrupted. In the following sections, we will expand this perspective further to include Earth's climate and geography, exploring the atmospheric composition, continental arrangements, and oceanic systems of the time, factors that shaped this vibrant world and its eventual fate. Transitioning from the remarkable tapestry of life that thrived in the Late Cretaceous, we pivot our attention to the vital context that shaped these ecosystems over millions of years: Earth's climate and geography. Understanding the atmospheric conditions, the layout of continents, and the configuration of oceans circa 66 million years ago not only illuminates the living world of that era, but also sheds light on the environmental backdrop against which the last great mass extinction of the dinosaurs unfolded. During the Late Cretaceous, the Earth was a vastly different planet than we know today. The arrangement of continents had undergone profound transformations due to the relentless forces of plate tectonics. At this time, the supercontinent Pangaea, which had dominated during the earlier Mesozoic, had long fragmented, giving rise to the major continental blocks drifting toward their modern positions, yet still significantly displaced compared to the current map. North America was essentially split by the expansive western interior seaway, an inland sea that stretched from the Arctic Ocean down to the Gulf of Mexico, dividing the continent into two landmasses called Laramidia to the west and Appalachia to the east. This shallow sea created distinct ecosystems and likely influenced patterns of dinosaur evolution and dispersal. Meanwhile, Eurasia formed a fragmented archipelago, a series of islands and peninsulas rather than a single vast landmass, resulting in unique evolutionary pressures and faunal exchanges. South America was separated from Africa, continuing to drift westward, while India was an isolated island continent moving northwards on a collision course with Asia. Australia and Antarctica, still connected or at least close, harbored cooler climate zones due to their higher southern latitudes, though even these polar regions experienced milder temperatures than today. The oceans covering much of the globe were warmer and higher, flooding many continental shelves and creating shallow epicontinental seas that fostered rich marine biodiversity. Earth's climate during the Late Cretaceous was markedly warmer and more equable than modern times. Polar ice caps were essentially absent, resulting in higher sea levels and warmer global temperatures. Average global temperatures hovered approximately 6 to 14 degrees Celsius, higher than present-day averages, effectively reducing temperature gradients between equator and poles. This relative climatic stability, however, was punctuated by gradual fluctuations at regional scales and by episodes of increased volcanic activity. The atmospheric composition played a key role in this warm climate. Carbon dioxide, CO2 levels were significantly elevated, estimated to be several times higher than pre-industrial levels, driving a potent greenhouse effect that helped underpin global warmth. Oxygen levels during this period were near modern levels, fostering robust animal life, including large-bodied species that relied on rich oxygen supplies. Methane and other trace greenhouse gases were also present, contributing further to the warming atmosphere. These climatic conditions supported lush vegetation growth even at high latitudes. For example, fossil evidence from northern polar regions shows the presence of conifers, broad-leafed trees, and even ferns, thriving in conditions that would be unthinkable under today's polar darkness and frigid temperatures. The absence of large ice sheets meant these polar areas experienced relatively mild, though seasonally variable, climates, characterized by long periods of daylight in summer. Ocean circulation patterns were also distinct, shaped by the positions of continents and high sea levels. The global ocean was more interconnected, with shallow seaways allowing marine fauna to disperse widely. Warm ocean currents circulated predominantly around the equator, while deep oceanic waters were richer in oxygen relative to some later periods. These factors resulted in an extensive and highly productive marine biosphere, with large coral-like reef systems constructed by rudest bivalves flourishing along continental shelves. At the same time, the oceans fostered vast pelagic ecosystems where giant marine reptiles such as mosasaurs and plesiosaurs dominated, and ammonites wove their intricate shells into the diverse biota. Sea temperatures in the Cretaceous were generally warmer, supporting tropical conditions into higher latitudes and influencing weather patterns and precipitation on adjacent landmasses. Continental environments, ranging from deserts to floodplains to coastal wetlands, were all greatly influenced by these underlying climatic and geographic factors. For instance, the western interior seaways presence created humid, warm conditions along its margins, nurturing dense forests and supporting rich dinosaurian faunas, while more arid regions fostered communities of specialized plants and animals adapted to drier conditions. Understanding the planet's late Cretaceous climate and geography also aids in visualizing its vulnerability to catastrophic change. The high sea levels made coastal and low-lying habitats especially widespread, yet prone to environmental shifts. The warmer climate fostered life adapted to those specific conditions, but left some ecosystems vulnerable to changes in temperature and sea level. Subtle geological events during this time, including volcanic activity such as the onset of the vast Deccan Traps eruptions in what is now India, began altering atmospheric chemistry and climate. Meanwhile, the shifting positions of continents affected ocean currents and weather systems, contributing long-term environmental stresses beneath the surface of apparent stability. This configuration, the warm, greenhouse world of the late Cretaceous with tastefully sculpted continents, sprawling shallow seas, and a teeming biosphere, provides an essential backdrop for understanding both the splendid flourishing and eventual collapse of life forms, including the dinosaurs. As we move forward, we will examine those subtle warning signs and environmental instabilities emerging late in the Cretaceous, exploring how Earth's dynamic systems hinted at the coming cataclysm. The stage was set for change, and though it seemed a world in balance, it was poised for one of the most dramatic upheavals in Earth's history. As the late Cretaceous period unfolded, life on Earth was thriving in remarkable diversity and abundance. The vast continents were teeming with dinosaurs roaming lush landscapes, marine reptiles ruled the seas, and fertile forests supported complex ecosystems. Yet, beneath this veneer of prosperity, subtle warning signs began to emerge. Minor extinction pulses and environmental instabilities that hinted at the profound upheaval yet to come. Understanding these early tremors is essential to grasp the complexity of the mass extinction event that would mark the end of the era. Paleontological and geological records reveal that the final tens of millions of years of the Cretaceous were punctuated by several episodes of environmental stress and localized extinctions. These were not the sudden, cataclysmic extinction that would later annihilate around 75% of species globally, but more gradual and smaller-scale losses and disruptions that left their fingerprint in the fossil record. Often termed as minor extinction pulses, these intervals were marked by declines in biodiversity and shifts in species composition across different regions and taxonomic groups. One conspicuous example involves several marine groups. The seas of the Late Cretaceous witnessed repeated declines in ammonite diversity. These shelled cephalopods were widespread, vital components of marine food webs, and important indicators of oceanic health. Certain lineages of ammonites progressively diminished in range and numbers during the last few million years before the Big Event. Similarly, some planktonic foraminifera, microscopic marine organisms vital for ocean ecosystems and carbon cycling, showed fluctuations and notable reductions in their diversity, indicating environmental stresses in the oceans. Terrestrial ecosystems mirrored this pattern in some aspects. Studies of dinosaur fossils across North America and Asia demonstrate shifts in faunal communities within the last 5 to 10 million years of the Cretaceous. Specific lineages of large herbivores and carnivores declined or disappeared regionally, while others emerged or became more dominant. In some cases, dinosaur diversity appeared to plateau or even shrink, hinting at ecological pressures that may have been shaping communities long before the asteroid impact. These extinction pulses were linked to various environmental instabilities. Climate variation during the Late Cretaceous, while generally warm, included episodes of cooling and warming, which possibly altered habitats and resource availability. These fluctuations could affect vegetation patterns, especially because many herbivorous dinosaurs depended on flowering plants and conifers whose distribution likely shifted with climatic changes. Additionally, marine environments were affected by changes in sea level. Intermittent regressions, periods when sea levels fell, led to the retreat of the epicontinental seas, such as the Western Interior Seaway in North America. This lowered shallow marine habitat availability, likely stressing marine fauna dependent on these ecotones and contributing to localized extinctions. Rising sea levels that followed also caused habitat fragmentation, influencing patterns of species distribution and survival. Volcanic activity increased significantly during the Late Cretaceous in multiple regions around the globe, injecting vast quantities of gases and particulates into the atmosphere. These eruptions, particularly those that later produced the massive Deccan Traps flood basalts in present-day India, began before the ultimate cataclysmic event and contributed to atmospheric changes, including fluctuations in greenhouse gases and aerosols. The volcanic activity may have contributed to climate variability, ocean acidification, and disruptions to ecosystems in both marine and terrestrial realms. Geochemical data extracted from sedimentary rocks indicate changes in carbon isotope ratios during these intervals, suggesting perturbations in the global carbon cycle. Such disruptions may reflect intensified volcanic outgassing, shifts in organic carbon burial rates, or marine anoxia events where oxygen-depleted conditions in the oceans stressed marine life dramatically. Indeed, widespread evidence of environmental upheaval includes an increase in sediment deposition patterns linked to wildfires, soil erosion, and oceanic hypoxia, situations that signal ecosystem stress and degradation on geological timescales. These subtle but cumulative effects created an ecological milieu where resilience was continually tested. While these warning signs did not produce a full-scale, immediate collapse, they set the stage for heightened vulnerability. Ecosystems were enduring pressure from changing climates, sea level fluctuations, and volcanic interference. Biodiversity was undergoing reorganization, with some species declining, others adapting, and new forms emerging. Importantly, this pattern emphasizes that mass extinctions are often preceded by complex, multifaceted decline processes rather than sudden events alone. These pulses and instabilities reveal ecosystems already in flux and therefore potentially less robust when confronted with an extraordinary catastrophic force. In viewing these late Cretaceous warning signals, we gain insight into the paleontological principle that extinction is often a protracted series of events rather than an instantaneous occurrence. This sets a crucial context for the extraordinary volcanic activity that escalated in the form of the Deccan Traps and the monumental impact event centered at Chicxulub, the twin giants of environmental stress that would ultimately converge to bring the Mesozoic era to a close. In our next journey, we will delve into the buildup itself, the increased volcanic activity of the late Maastrichtian, including detailed exploration of the Deccan Traps eruptions, unraveling how these geological processes contributed to environmental transformations preceding the final catastrophe. As the late Cretaceous epoch pressed on, the planet was not only teeming with life, but also undergoing profound geological transformations that would set into motion one of the most cataclysmic events in Earth's history. Among the critical contributors to the environment's perturbation was a remarkable increase in volcanic activity, culminating in the massive eruptions that formed one of the largest volcanic provinces in the world, the Deccan Traps, in present-day India. This volcanic episode, often described as a key player in Earth's late Cretaceous environmental turmoil, demands an intricate exploration to understand its scale, timing, and influence on global ecosystems. Volcanism on Earth has always played a fundamental role in shaping landscapes and atmospheres, but the late Cretaceous bore witness to a particularly immense phase of eruptive activity. The Deccan Traps represent flood basalt volcanism, characterized by vast outpourings of highly fluid basaltic lava that covered an expanse exceeding 500,000 square kilometers. The word trap itself is derived from the Swedish term trappa, meaning stairs, a reference to the terraced step-like morphology formed by these successive basaltic lava flows. This volcanic province developed across several 100,000 years, centered approximately around 66 to 67 million years ago, straddling the boundary of the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods. Such timing intriguingly coincides with the fossil and geological evidence of environmental stresses and the mass extinction event that would follow shortly after, inviting scientists to investigate causality, correlation, and complexity in the interplay between volcanism and biotic crisis. The sheer volume of lava released during the emplacement of the Deccan Traps is staggering. Estimates suggest that over 1.5 million cubic kilometers of basaltic lava erupted, blanketing the region to depths of up to 2 kilometers in places. This colossal volcanic output would have dramatically altered not only the local terrain, but also the regional and likely global atmospheric conditions. Volcanic eruptions release vast amounts of gases, including carbon dioxide, so CO2, sulfur dioxide, SO2, nitrogen oxides, and volatile organic compounds. The injection of these gases into the atmosphere significantly influences climate systems. Carbon dioxide, a potent greenhouse gas, contributes to warming, while sulfur dioxide forms sulfate aerosols that can reflect sunlight and induce cooling. The dynamic between these opposing forces can cause complex climate fluctuations. During the Deccan Traps eruptions, rapid pulses of volcanic activity may have injected sulfur aerosols into the stratosphere, producing short-term global cooling events. These cooling spells, sometimes referred to as volcanic winters, may have been a direct cause of stress to plants and animals, disrupting photosynthesis and food chains. Simultaneously, increased CO2 levels could have led to long-term greenhouse warming, creating fluctuating and unstable climatic conditions. Moreover, evidence suggests that volcanic activity was episodic rather than continuous, involving multiple pulses of intense eruptions interspersed with quieter periods. This pattern implies that life on Earth was subjected to repeated bouts of environmental stress rather than a single, uniform change, potentially destabilizing ecosystems over extended durations. Geochemical analyses of sediments associated with the Deccan Traps reveal signs of ocean acidification events coinciding with the eruptions, likely stemming from increased CO2 levels dissolving into seawater. Acidic oceans impair calcifying organisms such as foraminifera and mollusks, essential to marine food webs, marking another avenue through which volcanism strained marine and coastal ecosystems. Importantly, the Deccan Traps episode unfolded as India was moving northward on its collision course with Asia, a tectonic journey that may have contributed to mantle plume activity beneath the Indian plate. Some theories propose that the weight adjustment or dynamics of the Indian plate's accelerated trajectory influenced the intensity and duration of volcanism. The timing of the Deccan eruptions also, their final major phases occurring within less than a couple 100,000 years of the Chicxulub impact event, raises intricate debates among researchers. Was the intense volcanism a triggering factor that primed ecosystems for collapse, or did it exacerbate environmental damage initiated by the asteroid strike? Some studies argue for a synergistic effect, where prolonged volcanic activity weakened biospheres, making them less resilient to sudden, catastrophic events. Others emphasize the asteroid's primary role as the extinction trigger. One must consider the scale of volcanic gases released prior to and coincident with the impact. Sulfate aerosols could have rapidly cooled the planet in the short term, while CO2-induced warming gradually eroded climate stability, creating swings that alternated between extremes. Volcanic ash and particulates, distributed by high-altitude winds, would have affected photosynthetic life, leading to reduced sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, another mechanism by which volcanism added to environmental stress. The global dispersal of volcanic sediments in the sedimentary record aligns closely with indicators of faunal turnover and dynasty reorganization. In addition to atmospheric impacts, the physical consequences of flooding lava flows altered landscapes, wiping out habitats in the Indian subcontinent and adjacent regions, and potentially disrupting local hydrological cycles that influenced regional climate systems. It's important to underscore that flood basalts like the Deccan Traps are not unique in geological history. Similar events have coincided with several other mass extinctions. Their study offers profound insights into the potential of volcanic processes to transform life on Earth over relatively short geological timescales. In summary, the Late Cretaceous buildup featured an immense volcanic episode whose environmental footprints echo in sediments and fossils worldwide. The Deccan Traps eruptions released copious volcanic gases and particulates into the atmosphere, inducing climatic fluctuations that stressed ecosystems globally. These stresses most likely contributed to the weakening of biodiversity and ecological resilience shortly before the final extinction. As we examine this volcanic crescendo, we also draw closer to the climatic and ecological setting that existed just prior to the asteroid impact. Following this exploration, our next focus will be on the mammals that lived in the shadow of these upheavals. Small, adaptable creatures whose evolutionary journey would emerge prominently after the downfall of the dinosaurs and the reshaping of life on Earth. In the vast shadow cast by the towering presence of dinosaurs during the Late Cretaceous, a quieter, subtler story of survival and evolution was unfolding, one that would ultimately reshape life on Earth in the epochs to come. Despite their modest size and relatively low diversity compared to their reptilian contemporaries, mammals were evolving adapting, and quietly carving out ecological niches in a world dominated by giants. This chapter in Earth's history, often overlooked, is essential to appreciate not only the resilience of mammals, but also the groundwork they laid before the cataclysmic changes that would soon reverberate through biospheres worldwide. Mesozoic mammals were generally small creatures, rarely larger than a modern rat or possum, but they displayed remarkable anatomical and ecological diversity. Their evolutionary journey traces back to the late Triassic, where the earliest mammalia forms appeared, but it was during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods that mammals began to radiate into their first significant ecological roles. Despite being limited in size and scope by the dominance of dinosaurs, especially large theropods and herbivorous megafauna, these early mammals developed a fascinating range of adaptations that allowed them to exploit environments often unreachable by their reptilian rivals. Anatomically, late Cretaceous mammals exhibited innovations such as more sophisticated teeth, indicating diverse diets that ranged from insectivory and omnivory to herbivory and even possibly carnivory. Their jaw structures became more complex, with the evolution of tribosphenic molars, teeth capable of both shearing and grinding that allowed efficient food processing. This diversification of feeding strategies enabled mammals to occupy a wide array of ecological niches, adapting to life on the ground, in trees, and even burrowing underground. Ecologically, many mammals adopted nocturnal lifestyles, which may have been a strategy to avoid predation and competition with the dominant diurnal dinosaurs. This nocturnality would have favored improvements in sensory capabilities, such as enhanced smell, hearing, and possibly early forms of whiskers, vibrissae, enabling mammals to navigate, hunt, and forage effectively in low-light conditions. Fossil evidence suggests that some mammals had keen auditory ossicles and olfactory bulbs consistent with these behaviors. Among the diverse mammalian lineages of the late Cretaceous were multituberculates, a group often compared to modern rodents in appearance and ecology. They were among the most successful and widespread mammals of their time, characterized by distinctive multi-cusped teeth that allowed them to grind plant material and seeds effectively. Their presence extended across North America, Europe, and Asia, highlighting their adaptability and ecological success. Another significant group included early marsupials and placentals, although these clades were less diverse in the Cretaceous than they would become later. Fossil evidence points to a modest diversification in body size and ecological roles toward the latter stages of the Cretaceous, including some mammals capable of gliding, burrowing, or climbing, indicating an expanding exploration of terrestrial niches. Early mammals' reproductive strategies likely differed from those of their dinosaurian neighbors. Like their modern descendants, many probably gave birth to underdeveloped young, requiring extended parental care, a strategy that may have offered advantages in complex and competitive environments. Nesting sites, burrows, and evidence of parental behavior from fossil records suggest a degree of social complexity often not attributed to these early mammals. It is also worth noting that mammals of this era were part of intricate food webs. They preyed on insects, small reptiles, and in some cases possibly scavenged from dinosaur carcasses. Likewise, they fell prey to small theropod dinosaurs, large amphibians, and reptiles that coexisted within these ancient landscapes. Many species were likely opportunistic and versatile foragers, traits that would become crucial in surviving the forthcoming extinction event. The geographic distribution of Cretaceous mammals reflected the global rearrangement of continents. Fossils from North America, Asia, Europe, and parts of Gondwana testify to their spread of the continents, facilitating distinct evolutionary paths, but with some dispersal across land bridges and connected regions. Isolated populations adapted to local environments, sometimes developing unique features that contributed to the surprisingly diverse mammalian fauna by the period's end. While overshadowed by dinosaurs in scale and spectacle, mammals showed resilience and adaptability, qualities that would become their defining strengths in the aftermath of the mass extinction. Their evolutionary experiments during the Cretaceous equipped them with the tools to survive and thrive in a rapidly changing world, poised on the brink of a biological reset. As we delve deeper into the events of this pivotal period, the narrative of mammals evolving in the dinosaurs' shadow sets a compelling stage. Their tenacity would soon be tested as Earth's environment underwent one of the most severe extinction events recorded in its history. Next, we will venture farther back beyond Earth itself, unraveling the cosmic journey of the asteroid whose trajectory would ultimately intersect with our planet's destiny, a celestial harbinger casting a long and fateful shadow over the Age of Dinosaurs. As we step closer to the pivotal moment that forever altered life on Earth, our attention turns skyward, far beyond our planet, to the origins and epic journey of the asteroid that would become infamous as Chicxulub. This asteroid's relentless trajectory through the solar system culminated in an impact so catastrophic that it reshaped the course of Earth's biological and geological history, closing the chapter on the Age of Dinosaurs. Understanding where this cosmic visitor came from, how it traveled through space, and the forces that guided its final plunge is essential for grasping the scale and nature of this historic event. The asteroid known as the Chicxulub impactor is estimated to have measured roughly 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter, making it a colossal celestial body. Its origins trace back to the vast and dynamic region of the solar system known as the asteroid belt, a circumstellar disk located between Mars and Jupiter. This belt contains countless rocky and metallic bodies, remnants of the early solar system that never coalesced into a planet due to the gravitational influence of Jupiter. Over millions of years, the belt's internal dynamics and external perturbations caused some asteroids to shift orbits, sometimes embarking on journeys that crossed the inner planets. Key to the asteroid's descent toward Earth was the role of gravitational resonances, areas where the gravitational influence of Jupiter, combined with that of other planets and smaller bodies, destabilizes asteroid orbits. These resonances can nudge asteroids into elongated trajectories, causing them to escape the relative calm of the belt. Some are thrown inward toward the Sun, crossing the orbits of terrestrial planets, including Earth. The Chicxulub impactor was likely a fragment of such a destabilized body. Recent computer simulations and analyses of the geochemical signatures of shocked minerals, as well as isotopic compositions of impact-derived rocks, suggest it may have originated from the outer portion of the belt, composed predominantly of carbonaceous chondrite material. This type of asteroid is rich in organic compounds and water-bearing minerals, though by the time of impact, it was a rocky mass hurtling at cosmic speeds. Traveling at an estimated velocity between 20 and 30 kilometers per second, approximately 45,000 to 67,000 miles per hour, the asteroid's passage through the inner solar system was swift and undeterred. Unlike comets, which often come from distant icy reservoirs such as the Kuiper Belt or Oort cloud with highly elliptical orbits, asteroids like the Chicxulub impactor follow more stable, though sometimes chaotic, orbital paths, primarily confined to the plane of the solar system. Nevertheless, gravitational interactions and orbital resonances can transform these predictable paths into deadly Earth-crossing orbits. For millions of years before impact, the asteroid may have orbited the Sun with a relatively stable orbit, only to be perturbed by gravitational tugs, possibly from Jupiter or other terrestrial planets, incrementally nudging it closer to the inner solar system's more crowded and volatile orbital zone. This gradual migration culminated in a final, irrevocable trajectory toward Earth. When the asteroid's orbit intersected with Earth's path, the collision course was essentially fatal. The impactor approached Earth from a southeasterly direction, striking at an angle estimated between 45 to 60 degrees relative to the horizon, a trajectory that maximized the energy transferred to the planet during impact. The kinetic energy released was incomprehensible, billions of times more powerful than the most massive nuclear bombs ever detonated. The location of impact provided further fuel for its devastating consequences. The point of collision lay in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, where a thick layer of carbonate-rich sedimentary rock covered by a shallower sea amplified the effects of the impact. The presence of these particular geological layers contributed to an intense release of sulfur gases into the atmosphere, exacerbating climatic disturbances following the collision. Tracing the asteroid's path through the solar system not only enriches the story of this global catastrophe, but also serves as a sobering reminder of the dynamic, sometimes unpredictable nature of our celestial neighborhood. Space is not empty. It is filled with countless objects, each orbiting and interacting gravitationally, with occasional paths intersecting ours in tragic, transformative encounters. Understanding the Chicxulub asteroid's journey is also crucial for the modern scientific endeavor of planetary defense. Assessing the risks posed by near-Earth objects and developing strategies to mitigate potential impacts. This ancient space rock's fateful trajectory teaches us both about the fragility of life on Earth and the necessity of vigilance in watching the skies. With this cosmic context established, we now prepare to dive into the dramatic day of impact itself. A moment that began with a blinding flash of light and reshaped life on Earth in ways that continue to reverberate through time. The day the asteroid collided with Earth 66 million years ago, the event that would come to be known as the Chicxulub impact, stands as a critical moment of geological and biological upheaval. Though the devastation was immediate and vast, science has painstakingly pieced together the timeline of this event from a rich tapestry of paleontological and geological evidence. Through careful examination of impact craters, rock layers, fossil distributions, and chemical markers, researchers have reconstructed the unfolding of Impact Day with remarkable precision, capturing a sequence of moments that forever changed the planet. At the very start of Impact Day, the asteroid, traveling at an estimated velocity of about 20 to 30 kilometers per second, approached Earth from a southeasterly direction. As it entered the upper atmosphere, it would have appeared as an intensely bright fireball, many times brighter than the sun, streaking through the sky. This superheated, glowing object produced a tremendous shockwave that compressed atmospheric gases ahead of it, creating a swirling cascade of supersonic winds and intense heat. Within seconds of atmospheric entry, the asteroid struck the shallow sea covering the Yucatan Peninsula, instantly releasing energy equivalent to approximately 100 million megatons of TNT, an explosion billions of times more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped during the 20th century. This immense kinetic energy vaporized the asteroid, but more importantly, it vaporized and melted the Earth's surface rock at the impact site, generating temperatures hot enough to melt rock into glass and sending vast quantities of molten debris and dust skyward. The force of the impact created a massive crater approximately 150 kilometers in diameter and over 20 kilometers deep. The excavation process took minutes, but the geological effects were profound. A towering plume of superheated vaporized rock, tens of kilometers high, rose above the site, and the ejecta, fragments of rock and dust, were hurled at velocities sufficient to escape Earth's gravity or rain down globally. Almost immediately following the impact, powerful shockwaves radiated through Earth's crust, triggering earthquakes with magnitudes exceeding 11 on the Richter scale, far beyond any witnessed in recorded human history. These tremors sent tsunamis rippling across oceans, some towering hundreds of meters high, as they inundated continental shorelines worldwide, reshaping coastlines and devastating marine and terrestrial habitats. Simultaneously, superheated gases and ejecta re-entered the atmosphere at high speeds, producing a global cascade of thermal radiation. This burst of heat ignited wildfires across vast regions, as charred layers in sedimentary deposits and a spike in charcoal concentrations around the KP boundary testify. The skies filled with thick, scorching embers and ash, darkening the sun and projecting a world plunged into shadow and cold later on. The sequence of events immediately following the impact unfolded over minutes to hours, including the global dispersal of fine dust and sulfate aerosols generated by vaporized seawater interacting with sulfur-rich rocks at the impact site. These fine particles spread into the stratosphere, where they lingered for months to years, reflecting sunlight and triggering a prolonged impact winter characterized by severe drops in global temperatures. Fossilized remains found at and immediately above the KPG boundary show sharp disruption in ecosystems precisely timed to this event. Microscopic organisms such as plankton suffered catastrophic die-offs, disrupting aquatic food chains. Terrestrial plants collapsed where sunlight failed to reach the surface, as evidenced by sudden burials of leaf material and pollen drops in the stratigraphic record. Remarkably, some evidence indicates that the devastation was globally synchronous. Rock layers of similar age in North America, Europe, Asia, and ocean sediments all display the characteristic iridium-rich layer, a rare element abundant in asteroids but scarce in Earth's crust, marking a distinct temporal horizon. Shocked quartz grains, formed under extreme pressures unique to impact events, are found in the same layers, corroborating the timing and intensity of the impact. Paleontologists have unearthed the abrupt disappearance of diverse dinosaur species directly above these layers, alongside a mass mortality boundary for marine reptiles, ammonites, and many other forms of life. This synchronous extinction horizon offers compelling evidence that the Chicxulub impact was the primary agent initiating the planet-wide biological crisis. In summary, the timeline of impact day begins with the blazing asteroid's fiery plunge, followed by the instantaneous creation of an enormous crater and global shockwaves that destroyed habitats via earthquakes and tsunamis. Cascade effects included thermal radiation, igniting widespread fires, atmospheric dust blocking sunlight, and disrupted ecosystems leading to mass extinction. Minutes, hours, and days after the collision set in motion processes that altered climate and life for thousands to millions of years. This narrative, grounded in diverse geological and paleontological evidence, serves as both a scientific marvel and a poignant chronicle of one of Earth's most defining and transformative days. In the wake of this cataclysm, the planet embarked on a dramatic journey of recovery and change, one that we will continue to explore in the chapters ahead. The immediate aftermath of the Chicxulub asteroid impact is a story of colossal forces unleashed in fractions of a second, setting into motion a series of catastrophic phenomena that reshaped the planet's surface and atmosphere. Understanding this moment requires diving deeply into the physics and environmental consequences that erupted once the asteroid collided with Earth. The massive shockwave, the intense thermal radiation, and the cascade of superheated ejecta together formed a lethal cocktail, capable of devastating life on scales never before witnessed. Within moments of the asteroid's collision with the shallow sea over the Yucatan Peninsula, an unimaginably powerful shockwave radiated outward from the point of impact. This shockwave was a supersonic compression wave propagating through the atmosphere and Earth's crust, producing near instantaneous pressures and temperatures terrifying in magnitude. In terms of energy, it exceeded the combined force of all known human explosions by orders of magnitude. This shockwave sent seismic tremors that reached far beyond the impact site, equivalent to an earthquake of magnitude 11 or higher, fracturing rock, causing landslides, and triggering volcanic and tectonic activity thousands of kilometers away. In the atmosphere, this shockwave morphed into a blast wave, sweeping outward at supersonic speeds and generating hurricane-force winds. Such violent winds would have flattened forests for hundreds of kilometers around and contributed to massive destruction. This blast wave represented the first of many devastating forces to radiate from the impact, carrying with it the raw power to destroy ecosystems in an instant. Simultaneously, the impact also unleashed an extraordinary burst of thermal radiation. The tremendous kinetic energy of the asteroid converted almost entirely into heat and light, producing temperatures comparable to those found on the surface of the Sun for a brief but intense flash, visible for thousands of kilometers. This radiation surge is believed to have caused global wildfires, igniting dry vegetation across continents. The widespread charcoal found in layers at the KPG boundary corroborates the scale of these infernos, painting a picture of Earth enveloped in choking, fiery smoke, drastically altering landscapes and destroying habitats. Superheated ejecta, molten rock, vaporized minerals, and incandescent debris were blasted high into the atmosphere and even beyond Earth's gravitational reach. Some fragments escaped Earth altogether, while others rained back down, traveling at tremendous speeds. As these ejecta rained over the planet, their descent caused additional atmospheric heating. The friction of these particles re-entering the atmosphere generated a global thermal pulse, adding to the widespread firestorm conditions and drastically increasing surface temperatures. The molten material ejected during the formation of the crater formed glass spherules, tiny, rapidly cooled droplets of silica that are preserved in sedimentary layers worldwide. Often called impact spherules, their global distribution is a key piece of evidence tracing the impact's reach. These spherules settled from the sky over days to weeks, blanketing the surface and further influencing climate and ecosystems. Moreover, the impact vaporized vast volumes of carbonate and sulfur-rich rocks beneath the impact site, injecting massive amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide gases into the stratosphere. The resultant chemical reactions led to short-term atmospheric phenomena, such as acid rain and sunlight-blocking aerosols, that compounded the initial physical devastation. Taken together, the shockwave, thermal radiation, and superheated ejecta illustrate a moment of unparalleled violence. The scope of destruction was nearly instantaneous, yet had effects lasting decades, centuries, and beyond, destabilizing global climate systems and precipitating the collapse of ecosystems. As we move forward, we will explore how this devastation spread across the globe, through mega-tsunamis, widespread wildfires, and the onset of a darkness that would cover Earth, further deepening the cataclysm and shaping the course of life's history. Following the immediate blast of the asteroid impact, the fiery collision and its instantaneous shockwave, the devastation did not remain confined to the Yucatan Peninsula. Instead, it cascaded outward, delivering a confluence of catastrophes that engulfed the planet. The ensuing mega-tsunamis, widespread wildfires, and resulting global darkness together orchestrated a universal calamity that not only reshaped landscapes, but also profoundly disrupted life's delicate balance. One of the most striking and violent consequences of the Chicxulub impact was the generation of massive mega-tsunamis. As the colossal asteroid smashed into the shallow marine environment, it displaced an unimaginable volume of water almost instantaneously, creating giant waves of water, towering tsunamis, that radiated across the world's oceans. These waves were not mere ripples or even typical tsunamis observed today. They were gargantuan walls of water, reaching heights estimated between several hundred to over 1,000 meters near the impact site. These mega tsunamis surged inland swiftly, washing over coastal regions across the Gulf of Mexico, the seaway regions of North America, and far-flung shorelines around the globe. Geological records reveal deposits of chaotic sedimentary layers known as tsunamiites, which are found thousands of kilometers from the impact site, indicating the worldwide reach of these monstrous waves. The immense force of the water obliterated habitats, scouring landscapes, eroding soil, and uprooting vast forests. Marine ecosystems near shorelines suffered immediate annihilation as normal water depths were overwhelmed by turbulent surges, damaging coral reefs and displacing aquatic life en masse. Concurrently, the atmospheric effects magnified the planet's fiery transformation. The thermal radiation burst following the impact ignited wildfires estimated to have scorched approximately 10 to 30% of Earth's forests globally. These vast infernos released plumes of ash and smoke into the atmosphere, further darkening the skies. Fossil charcoal found in geologic layers immediately above the impact boundary provides direct evidence of these fires. Meanwhile, microscopic soot particles scattered across different continents testify to the extensive reach of the blazes. Wildfires ravaged diverse ecosystems, from tropical forests near the equator to temperate woodlands and more arid environments, tearing through both flora and fauna. Many animals were caught in these devastations, unable to escape the rapidly spreading flames. For herbivorous dinosaurs dependent on healthy forests for food and shelter, the loss of plant life was catastrophic, accelerating the collapse of terrestrial food chains. Scavengers, too, faced reduced food availability both from the wildfires themselves and subsequent ecological breakdown. As the immediate flames began to rest, a far more insidious darkness settled over the Earth, caused by the global dispersal of dust, soot, and aerosols lofted high into the atmosphere by the impact and the wildfires. This dense cloud formed an opacity thick enough to drastically reduce sunlight reaching the surface, plunging the planet into an extraordinary twilight, a phenomenon often referred to as an impact winter. With sunlight obscured, photosynthesis, the vital process by which plants convert sunlight into energy, suffered a severe shutdown. This cessation had cascading effects. Primary producers in terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems faltered, reducing food sources for herbivores, which, in turn, jeopardized carnivorous species higher in the food web. Temperatures worldwide plummeted, with estimates suggesting global cooling of several degrees Celsius, plunging many regions into an inhospitable freeze that lasted months to years. Oceanic systems were similarly affected. With sunlight blocked, phytoplankton, the microscopic marine plants underpinning marine food webs, experienced massive die-offs. This loss rippled upward, causing declines in fish populations, marine reptiles, and larger predators dependent on these fragile ecosystems. Disruptions in plankton cycles also influenced global carbon cycling, exacerbating climate instability. The combination of catastrophic tsunamis sweeping coastlines, relentless fires consuming forests, and choking, pervasive darkness utterly transformed the Earth's surface environments. This triad of disasters dismantled habitats on land and sea alike, making survival extraordinarily difficult for countless species. The cumulative environmental stress fractured ecosystems, pushing many organisms beyond their thresholds of resilience. These processes were not isolated or short-lived. Instead, they unfolded in complex, overlapping modes over days, weeks, and months, some effects lasting years or decades. The immediate physical destruction was coupled with prolonged climatic and ecological perturbations that shaped the ensuing biological crisis. The record of these cataclysmic events is preserved in sedimentary deposits worldwide, from thick layers of impact, ejecta, and tsunami deposits to widespread charcoal horizons marking ancient wildfires, offering an unambiguous testament to the scale and global nature of the destruction. In the forthcoming sections, we will further investigate the deep atmospheric disruptions caused by the impact, delving into the formation of sulfate aerosols, the persistence of the ejecta cloud, and the extended impact winter that challenged life's persistence. These atmospheric phenomena were crucial in prolonging the aftermath and deepening the biosphere's distress, culminating in the mass extinction that forever altered life on Earth. Following the immediate physical devastation wrought by the asteroid impact, the shockwave, thermal radiation, and superheated ejecta, the Earth's atmosphere entered a prolonged phase of severe disruption. This period was characterized by a dense, planet-wide cloud of debris, vast quantities of sulfur aerosols suspended in the stratosphere, and a climate plunged into darkness and cold, commonly referred to as the impact winter. This atmospheric upheaval played a critical role in enforcing the global ecological collapse that prolonged for years, causing one of the most devastating mass extinctions in Earth's history. Upon reaching the Earth's surface, the Chicxulub impactor delivered an explosive discharge of energy sufficient to vaporize itself and vast volumes of bedrock. The impact site, situated in a region rich in sulfate-bearing carbonate rocks, released prodigious amounts of sulfur gases, especially sulfur dioxide, SO2. These gases, along with immense quantities of pulverized rock and carbon dioxide, were thrust high into the stratosphere, reaching altitudes where they could remain suspended for months to years without being rapidly washed out by rain. This high-altitude injection of sulfur aerosols, the tiny droplets of sulfuric acid formed from SO2 chemical reactions, was particularly significant. These aerosols reflected and scattered incoming solar radiation, dramatically reducing the amount of sunlight reaching Earth's surface. The consequence was a rapid and severe cooling of the planet's surface temperatures, with estimates suggesting global average temperature drops ranging from several degrees Celsius to as much as 10 degrees or more, depending on the models and geographical regions considered. This climactic shift brought harsh conditions. Reduced sunlight inhibited photosynthesis, the process by which plants and photosynthetic marine organisms produce energy, essentially turning off the base of the food chain. Forests withered, crops failed, and marine phytoplankton, responsible for a large portion of oxygen and serving as the starting point for oceanic ecosystems, faced massive die-offs. This created a domino effect, leading to the breakdown of food webs both on land and in the oceans. Simultaneously, the thick ejecta cloud, composed of fine dust, ash, and glass spherules, tens of microns to millimeters in size, encircled the Earth. This cloud persisted, widely dispersing the impact debris far beyond the crater. The shading effect further prolonged darkness, compounding the cooling. Scientists studying sedimentary layers worldwide have identified a distinct iridium-rich band corresponding to this ejecta, a marker of its global extent and a time capsule of the impact's atmospheric consequences. In addition to sunlight reduction and cooling, the impact winter produced acid rain, a byproduct of sulfur aerosols dissolving into atmospheric moisture. This acidic precipitation altered soil chemistry, affected aquatic environments, and stressed the surviving biota. The severity and duration of acid rain likely varied regionally, but added to overall environmental stress. An intriguing aspect of the atmospheric disruption was the oscillation between cooling and warming phases. While aerosols initially induced dramatic cooling, the massive injection of greenhouse gases, primarily CO2 liberated from vaporized carbonates, and volcanic activity triggered contemporaneously by the impact contributed to longer-term global warming, possibly generating a complex, unstable climate pattern. This volatility presented an additional layer of difficulty for species attempting to survive and adapt. The impact winter likely persisted for several years, or even up to a decade, delaying the recovery of ecosystems. Such extended darkness and cold conditions would have favored small, adaptable, and often burrowing or nocturnal creatures better equipped to endure these extremes, traits observed in the survivors of the mass extinction event. The recovery from this atmospheric chaos was neither swift nor linear. Over time, gradual clearing of aerosols and dust allowed sunlight to filter through again, but the ecological consequences of this sustained environmental stress reshaped life profoundly. The extinction of dominant taxa opened niches and reshaped the course of evolution, ultimately facilitating the rise of mammals and the modern biosphere. The global environmental consequences of the ejecta cloud, sulfur aerosols, and prolonged impact winter showcase how an extraterrestrial event can disrupt planetary systems far beyond immediate mechanical damage. The atmospheric disruption caused by the asteroid impact was a critical agent in Earth's transition from the Age of Dinosaurs to a new chapter of life. In the sections ahead, we will examine how these atmospheric conditions contributed directly to the collapse of ecosystems, the shutdown of photosynthesis, and the breakdown of food chains that led to the mass extinction witnessed everywhere in the fossil record. In the wake of the unprecedented devastation, the shockwave, giant tsunamis, fierce wildfires, and thick global darkness, Earth's ecosystems faced a critical tipping point. The cascading effects of the Chicxulub impact stretched far beyond the immediate destruction, initiating a profound collapse of biological networks that sustained life both on land and in the oceans. Central to this collapse was the shutdown of photosynthesis, the very foundation of the planet's food chains, which precipitated a systemic breakdown of ecosystems at every level. Photosynthesis, the process by which plants, algae, and certain bacteria convert sunlight into chemical energy, is the keystone of life on Earth. By harnessing solar energy to produce organic compounds, photosynthetic organisms create the primary energy source supporting herbivores and, consequently, carnivores across the globe. When the asteroid's impacted atmospheric debris and aerosols obscured sunlight for months to years, this fundamental life process faltered dramatically. Without sufficient sunlight penetrating the dense ejecta and sulfur aerosol clouds, terrestrial plants soon experienced widespread diebacks. Fossilized pollen and leaf, remains from sedimentary layers above the impact boundary show abrupt declines in plant diversity and quantity. Many species unable to tolerate extended darkness or acid rain conditions perished, leading to a rapid loss of forest cover and ground vegetation. The flora that once sustained massive herbivore populations dwindled, depriving them of vital food. This bottleneck forced a cascading effect upward through the food chain and directly impacted herbivorous dinosaurs, which struggled to survive amid scarce resources. In aquatic ecosystems, the impact was equally severe. Marine phytoplankton, microscopic photosynthetic organisms forming the basis of oceanic food webs, plummeted in abundance after the impact. These tiny, sun-dependent photosynthesizers produce roughly half of the Earth's oxygen and form the nutritional foundation for zooplankton, which are, in turn, food for fish and larger marine creatures. The prolonged absence of sunlight led to massive plankton die-offs, an event archaeologically evidenced by a marked shift in microfossil assemblages immediately following the KPG boundary. With their primary resources devastated, zooplankton populations collapsed, followed by subsequent declines in fish, cephalopods, mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and other marine predators. The food web that had flourished for millions of years unraveled quickly, causing widespread starvation and extinction in aquatic realms. Freshwater ecosystems exhibited similar stress patterns, with algae die-offs paralleling terrestrial vegetation collapses. This systemic shutdown affected scavengers and decomposers as well. The disruption in the abundance and diversity of organic matter altered nutrient cycling, soil quality, and microbial populations critical for ecosystem regeneration. Decomposition rates slowed, and nutrient recycling processes that sustain healthy environments became impaired, further stifling recovery. The ripple effects extended to the behavior and survival strategies of surviving species. Some organisms exhibited opportunistic feeding, broadening diets or resorting to scavenging in the shattered landscapes. Others ventured into refugia, regions minimally affected by the worst conditions, where microhabitats offered shelter and diminished competition. Unfortunately, many species unable to adapt to rapid environmental changes vanished forever, as evidenced by the fossil record's stark change in species composition and diversity across the boundary layers. The collapse was not instantaneous worldwide, but manifested variably, reflecting local and regional differences in impact severity, biogeography, and resilience. Yet, the global signature is clear. A catastrophic interruption in photosynthesis led directly to the collapse of energy flow, unraveling entire ecosystems' complexity and function. This phase marked the beginning of a prolonged recovery and ecological reorganization, ultimately paving the way for the emergence and radiation of new groups, including mammals who would come to dominate after dinosaurs' reign ended. But first, the devastation etched by the shutdown of photosynthesis and the breakdown of food chains was a profound reset, a sobering boundary between an ancient world lost and one emerging anew. In the next chapter, we will examine the concrete geological and chemical evidence of this mass extinction event recorded worldwide. From iridium anomalies to shocked quartz and stratigraphic markers, offering a window into the Earth's incredible resilience and the clues it preserves of this catastrophic time. The story of the last day of the dinosaurs is not told solely through bones and fossils, but is also etched in the very fabric of the Earth itself. Strata laid down across the globe preserve unmistakable signatures, minute yet powerful clues that allow scientists to pinpoint the momentous event that changed the course of life on our planet. Among the most significant geological markers chronicling this extinction are the globally distributed iridium layer, the presence of shocked quartz, and distinct boundary markers that together form the foundation of understanding the Cretaceous-Paleogene (KPG) boundary. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence linking the mass extinction to an extraterrestrial impact is the discovery of a worldwide thin layer of sediment enriched in iridium, a rare element in Earth's crust, but relatively abundant in asteroids and comets. In 1980, Nobel laureate Luis Alvarez and his colleagues found that this unusually high concentration of iridium appeared precisely at the KPG boundary in various places around the world, a finding that sparked a paradigm shift in extinction theories. This iridium anomaly is typically found as a thin, dark clay layer sandwiched between the uppermost Cretaceous and the lowest Paleogene sediments, representing the global fallout from the impact dust cloud. It owes its presence to the vaporization and distribution of asteroid material deposited on Earth following the Chicxulub impact. This iridium layer has since been located on every continent, from Italy to North America to the stepped volcanic islands of the Pacific, demonstrating the global scale and reach of the impact. Its very thinness, a few centimeters or less, belies its significance, marking a near instantaneous deposition event corresponding to the asteroid's catastrophic collision. Alongside the iridium anomaly, quartz grains bearing distinctive features known as shock lamellae have been discovered in these boundary deposits. These shocked quartz crystals are formed under pressures and temperatures only achievable during high-velocity impacts or nuclear explosions. Their microscopic, parallel planar fractures serve as geological fingerprints, confirming that Earth experienced an incredibly powerful shockwave. Such quartz grains are found embedded not just near the impact site, but scattered worldwide at KPG boundary strata, reinforcing the global severity of the event. Geologists have also identified tektites, small glassy spherules forged from terrestrial material melted and flung into the atmosphere during the impact, within the same layers. Their chemical composition often matches target rocks from the Yucatan region, linking them directly to the Chicxulub event. These tektites fell from the atmosphere over weeks and months, blanketing wide swaths of the planet in a fine sprinkle of impact glass, further corroborating the timing and magnitude of the catastrophe. In sediment cores drilled from ocean floors, such as in the Gulf of Mexico and North Atlantic, researchers observe the KPG boundary's signature layers exhibiting abrupt changes in fossil assemblages. The uppermost Cretaceous sediments teem with a rich diversity of foraminifera, ammonites, and other marine life. But immediately above, these faunas collapse sharply. This transition is synchronous with the iridium layer and shocked quartz presence, underscoring the correspondence between the geological markers and biological extinction. On land, stratigraphic sequences around the world indicate sudden shifts in pollen and spore assemblages, with a marked reduction in diversity at the boundary layer. The changes in vegetation reflect the environmental chaos unleashed by the impact, including widespread wildfires and climatic disturbance. The boundary layers often contain thin carbonaceous layers, or soot-rich strata, physical remnants indicative of the extensive fires that swept the globe. Structurally, the Chicxulub impact crater itself, the dolomite and limestone buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula, exhibits telltale ring-like formations characteristic of large impact structures. Drilling and geophysical studies have mapped the crater's size and morphology, matched precisely in age with the boundary markers found worldwide. These findings provide the incontrovertible link between the terrestrial record and extraterrestrial impact. Together, this ensemble of rocks, in layers enriched with iridium, punctuated by shocked quartz, peppered with tektites, and demarcated by sudden shifts in fossil and sedimentary evidence, forms an indelible testament to the asteroid impact and its cataclysmic consequences. It is this geologic signature, preserved in rocks from the depths of ocean basins to mountain ridges, that anchors the extinction event in a temporal and physical context accessible to modern science. The robustness and ubiquity of these boundary markers have enabled scientists not only to pinpoint the timing of the extinction with unprecedented precision, but also to reconstruct the sequence of environmental and ecological changes that unfolded. As such, they stand as the cornerstone of understanding the final demise of the dinosaurs and the profound transformation of Earth's biosphere that followed. In the next section, we will explore who vanished and who survived that fateful transition, delving into the global extinction patterns and the complex mosaic of biological loss and endurance across this pivotal moment in Earth's history. The cataclysmic impact that marked the end of the Cretaceous period triggered a mass extinction event unprecedented in both scale and rapidity. Understanding the global extinction patterns, identifying which species vanished, which survived, and exploring why, offers profound insight into life's vulnerabilities and resilience in the face of catastrophic change. The patterns that emerged from this extinction were complex, shaped by ecological niches, physiological traits, and geographic distributions, collectively illustrating a mosaic of loss and survival across terrestrial and marine realms. First and foremost, The impact event spelled instant doom for numerous iconic groups that dominated the Mesozoic world. Non-avian dinosaurs, which had flourished for over 160 million years, vanished completely from the fossil record. This group included the giants like Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, Hadrosaurs, and all their kin. Despite their evolutionary success, dinosaurs were unable to survive the rapid environmental upheaval initiated by the asteroid collision. Their specialized feeding strategies, large body sizes, and likely dependence on extensive vegetation and stable ecosystems rendered them particularly vulnerable. The interruption of photosynthesis and subsequent collapse of plant life directly impacted herbivorous dinosaurs, which in turn destabilized carnivorous species dependent on them. Marine reptiles such as mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and large sea turtles were also wiped out. These formidable oceanic predators, ruling the seas alongside ammonites and various fish, suffered from the collapse of marine food webs caused by plankton die-offs and changing ocean chemistry. Ammonites, those spiraled-shelled cephalopods abundant throughout the Mesozoic, were entirely extinguished. A loss echoed in their absence from any later fossil record. Beyond the well-known losses, numerous other taxa were devastated. Several groups of plants, especially gymnosperms like conifers, experienced dramatic declines, while many angiosperm lineages did survive and later radiate further. Small specialized mammals, certain amphibians, and some insect groups faced varying degrees of extinction, though overall, extinction rates were far higher for larger-bodied and ecologically specialized organisms. Yet, amid this brutal winnowing, life's resilience manifested in remarkable ways. Certain groups managed not only to survive, but to set the foundation for subsequent evolutionary radiations. Foremost among these were the avian dinosaurs, birds, which endured the catastrophic conditions that extinguished their non-avian cousins. Birds generally smaller size, higher metabolic rates, and dietary flexibility may have contributed to their survival, enabling them to exploit niches inaccessible to other species. Small mammals, many of which were nocturnal, insectivorous, burrowing, or semi-aquatic, also survived. Their small size, reproductive strategies, and ecological versatility proved advantageous in the erratic post-impact environments. The fact that mammals diversified rapidly after the extinction event underscores their capacity to exploit the newly opened ecological niches left vacant by the dinosaurs' demise. Reptiles such as crocodilians, some turtles, and lizards also persisted. Crocodilians, with their semi-aquatic habits, generalist diets, and robust physiologies, weathered the environmental stress. Likewise, numerous amphibians survived, benefiting perhaps from their aquatic or semi-aquatic life cycles. Marine life presents similar patterns. Although many groups perished, several lineages of bony fish, sharks, and certain invertebrates survived, facilitating the recovery of marine ecosystems. Planktonic foraminifera, though heavily reduced, rebounded to become key components of modern marine food webs. The uneven extinction patterns reflect the complex interplay of factors influencing survival. Body size played a significant role. Smaller animals generally exhibited higher survival rates, likely due to lower resource requirements and flexible behaviors. Dietary breadth was crucial. Omnivores and scavengers fared better than strict herbivores or carnivores dependent on specific prey. Habitat preference mattered. Species inhabiting aquatic or refuge-rich environments had better odds of persisting through the harshest conditions. Geographical distribution also influenced outcomes. Species with wide distributions, or those living near equatorial refugia with more stable climates, had comparatively greater survival chances than those restricted to narrow regions or harsh latitudes. In summation, the global extinction patterns following the Chicxulub impact reveal a profound reshaping of life. The eradication of dominant Mesozoic groups and the opportunistic survival of smaller, more adaptable species. This extinction was not indiscriminate, but selective, favoring traits and ecologies that could withstand rapid environmental disruption and resource scarcity. This complex panorama of loss and endurance set the stage for the evolutionary dawn of the Cenozoic era, where mammals, birds, and other survivors radiated into newly vacant ecological roles. In the ensuing discussion, we will explore their remarkable survival stories and the lineages that carried life through the darkest chapter to define Earth's future. As we delve into the final moments of the dinosaurs, we peer into a time of intense turmoil and uncertainty, illuminated by the fragmentary but compelling fossil evidence they left behind. Understanding these last chapters of dinosaur history involves interpreting traces of behavior and environmental clues that hint at how these majestic creatures lived, struggled, and ultimately met their fate in the chaotic days leading to and following the Chicxulub impact. Fossil sites from the terminal Cretaceous provide snapshots of dinosaur life on the brink. In North America's Hell Creek Formation, one of the most studied late Cretaceous deposits, remarkably well-preserved bones and nested eggs reveal populations of large herbivores like triceratops and hadrosaurs living in social groups. Some bone beds suggest herding behavior, indicating complex social structures that might have helped them survive the stresses mounting in their ecosystems. Evidence of nesting grounds and brooding behaviors in several dinosaur genera indicates continued reproduction up until the very end, a testament to their resilience despite environmental instability. Dinosaurs like Maiasaura, often referred to as good mother lizards, provide strong indications of parental care, with juveniles found alongside adults and nests arranged in colonies. These patterns underscore that dinosaurs were not just solitary giants, but engaged in nurturing social behaviors. However, some research suggests disparities in population dynamics in the final 1,000 years before extinction. Certain dinosaur groups display a decline in diversity and abundance, possibly reflecting habitat fragmentation or climate-induced stress. Fossil assemblages become less diverse and more fragmented, hinting at shrinking habitats or isolated refuges where populations clung to survival. Trace fossils, such as footprints and trackways, give glimpses into behaviors immediately preceding extinction. In some instances, tracks indicate migration across ancient floodplains or responses to environmental stress, including seasonal droughts or habitat loss. The lack of younger juvenile fossils in some regions points towards reproduction challenges, perhaps caused by deteriorating environmental conditions. Paleontologists have also uncovered clues suggesting that some dinosaurs may have sought refuge in isolated ecosystems. Islands, highland plateaus, or regions buffered from environmental extremes might have served as last sanctuaries. These refuges, however, were temporary havens, unable ultimately to prevent extinction. The phenomenon aligns with observations from other mass extinctions, where fragmented survival zones delayed but did not stop extinction processes. Furthermore, examination of dinosaur teeth and bone microstructure from late-stage fossils reveal evidence of physiological stress and nutritional deficiencies, including slowed growth rates and healed injuries, indicative of harsh living conditions. These physiological signs reflect the increasing ecological pressures faced by dinosaurs amid dwindling food supplies and habitat disruption. One intriguing realm is the behavior of carnivorous theropods in these final moments. Fossil evidence of tooth marks on bones and healed injuries hints at ongoing predator-prey interactions, scavenging, and social confrontation among species such as Tyrannosaurus rex. This suggests that despite environmental havoc, basic ecological dynamics persisted until extinction finally silenced these interactions. Combining paleontological data with geochemical evidence allows for increasingly detailed reconstructions of dinosaur life during the terminal Cretaceous. Shifts in carbon isotopes from fossil teeth, for example, reflect changes in diet and habitat use tied to climatic and ecological stressors. Such interdisciplinary approaches paint a picture of dinosaurs caught in a complex web of survival challenges as their world faded. All these threads weave together an image of dinosaur populations struggling with changing landscapes, trying to maintain life-sustaining behaviors despite the encroaching effects of climate upheaval and catastrophic events. Their last refuges were likely fragmented and ephemeral, and their behaviors, whether social, reproductive, or survival strategies, may have offered short-term advantages, but ultimately could not withstand the planetary scale disruptions. As we conclude this intimate glimpse into the final moments of the dinosaurs, we prepare to explore the remarkable groups that survived the catastrophe. These survivors, including some lineages of birds, small mammals, and crocodilians, would become the architects of life's renewal and the protagonists of the post-dinosaur world. In the next section, we will journey into the lives and adaptations of these fortunate descendants who weathered the extinction storm and set the stage for Earth's new evolutionary epoch. Amid the near-total devastation wrought by the Chicxulub impact, a remarkable story of survival and resilience unfolded. While the non-avian dinosaurs and many other groups perished, certain lineages managed to endure the catastrophic environmental upheavals and become the progenitors of Earth's post-extinction life tapestry. The first birds, small mammals, crocodilians, and other fortunate lineages stand as living testaments to nature's tenacity and adaptability in the face of extinction. This chapter examines these survivors, how they persisted during and after the crisis, and the ecological opportunities that accelerated their evolutionary radiance. Birds, the direct descendants of theropod dinosaurs, are perhaps the most iconic survivors of the mass extinction event that ended the Cretaceous. Although most non-avian dinosaurs vanished, early birds showcased remarkable adaptability and diversity by the late Cretaceous. Fossils of species such as Ichthyornis and Hesperornis reveal a range of ecological niches, ranging from agile, flying insectivores to specialized diving piscivores. Their ability to fly, occupy aerial niches, consume varied diets, and exploit transient refugia likely contributed to their survival. Feathered insulation also aided thermoregulation, offering advantages in the post-impact climate's fluctuating and often harsh conditions. Small mammals, overshadowed by the dinosaurian giants during the Mesozoic, emerged as crucial survivors. Early mammals of the late Cretaceous were predominantly small-bodied, no bigger than rodents or opossums, with diverse diets ranging from insectivory to omnivory. Their nocturnal habits, burrowing and arboreal lifestyles, and flexible reproductive strategies, including relatively rapid life cycles and extended parental care in some groups, positioned them well to endure habitat loss and diminished resources. Mammalian fossils from sites like Hell Creek show that these animals quickly exploited vacant ecological niches, setting the stage for their extraordinary diversification in the Cenozoic. Crocodilians, relatives of dinosaurs that had survived past mass extinctions, continued their unbroken lineage through the crisis. Semi-aquatic generalists with well-adapted physiologies, these reptiles could exploit freshwater and coastal habitats with relative stability as terrestrial ecosystems collapsed. Their versatile diet, slow metabolism, and ability to endure considerable environmental stress and resource scarcity aided their survival. Crocodilians flourished in wetlands and rivers, continuing to play critical roles in aquatic food webs. Beyond these better-known survivors, other lineages endured in the Mesozoic's aftermath. Some lizards, turtles, amphibians, and various insect groups weathered the extinction, often by virtue of small size, reproductive strategies favoring large numbers of offspring, and habitat generalism. These groups helped reconstruct ecosystems and provided the biological scaffolding for recovery. The survival dynamics were multifaceted, involving a combination of biological traits and ecological opportunities. Small body size was a critical factor, requiring fewer resources and facilitating greater ecological flexibility. Dietary breadth helped organisms adapt to rapidly changing food availability. Omnivory and insectivory allowed feeding across trophic levels. Additionally, the ability to occupy refugia, stable environments less impacted by extreme conditions, gave populations a vital foothold amid global chaos. The survivors' evolutionary success depended not only on enduring the initial catastrophe, but also on rapidly filling ecological roles vacated by extinct megafauna. This adaptive radiation catalyzed the rise of mammals and the diversification of birds into the myriad species familiar to us today. By understanding the characteristics that enabled survival, we gain insight into the resilience of life and the mechanisms by which evolutionary innovation emerges from crisis. These lineages, though small and often inconspicuous compared to their dinosaurian predecessors, heralded a new chapter on Earth, one defined by mammalian and avian ascendancy. As we proceed, the discussion will explore the controversial yet important role of ongoing volcanic activity, such as that of the Deccan Traps, examining how it interacted with the extinction event and influenced Earth's post-extinction environment and recovery. As scientists endeavor to unravel the causes of Earth's most famous mass extinction event, the role of the Deccan Traps volcanic activity remains one of the most intriguing and debated topics within paleontology and geology. While the asteroid impact at Chicxulub has long been established as the primary trigger for the Cretaceous Paleogene (KPG) extinction, mounting evidence suggests that the massive volcanic eruptions in present-day India, the Deccan Traps, may have significantly compounded environmental stresses, contributing to the timing, severity, and aftermath of one of the greatest biological crises in Earth's history. The Deccan Traps represent one of the largest volcanic provinces on Earth, formed by extensive flood basalt volcanism that occurred around the end of the Cretaceous period, approximately 66 million years ago. These volcanic flows blanketed an area of over 500,000 square kilometers with successive layers of basalt, some reaching several kilometers in thickness. The eruptions lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, overlapping chronologically with the Chicxulub impact, and thus likely influenced global climate and ecosystems both before and after the asteroid strike. One key aspect fueling the debate is the magnitude and intensity of the volcanic activity. The Deccan eruptions released enormous volumes of volcanic gases, including carbon dioxide, CO2, sulfur dioxide, SO2, and other volatiles into the atmosphere. CO2, a greenhouse gas, would have contributed to long-term warming, while SO2 aerosols reflect sunlight, potentially causing short-term cooling. This dual effect suggests complex climatic shifts characterized by oscillations between warming and cooling, sometimes referred to as volcanic winters, and greenhouse phases. These dramatic fluctuations could have destabilized ecosystems, making them more vulnerable to other stressors. Proponents of the Deccan Traps' significant role argue that the volcanic activity led to environmental stress prior to the asteroid impact, contributing to a series of minor extinction pulses and habitat disruptions evident in the fossil record. Gradual shifts in flora and fauna diversity, changes in ocean chemistry, and episodes of ocean acidification have been correlated with the timing of the Deccan eruptions, implying that the Earth's systems were already destabilizing. Conversely, some researchers propose that the Deccan Traps' influence may have been more limited, or that the eruptions accelerated only after the impact, with the asteroid strike serving as the primary extinction driver. They emphasize the abruptness of extinction in the fossil record, tightly associated with the iridium anomaly and shocked quartz, which closely coincide with the impact rather than the protracted volcanic activity. Advancements in dating techniques, including radiometric methods such as 40R, 39R geochronology, have allowed scientists to better constrain the timing of Deccan eruptions. Recent high-precision studies suggest that a significant portion of the volcanic activity occurred in a rapid pulse, closely overlapping the impact, raising the possibility of synergistic effects, where volcanic stresses primed ecosystems and the asteroid impact delivered the final blow. Models of atmospheric chemistry and climate have also incorporated volcanic emissions to examine potential combined outcomes. These simulations indicate that prolonged volcanic gas emissions could have led to ocean acidification, reduced oxygen levels, anoxia, and shifts in temperature and precipitation patterns, all stressing marine and terrestrial organisms before the abrupt impact-related catastrophe. Importantly, sedimentary records from various global locations show multiple geochemical excursions, such as carbon isotope shifts and mercury anomalies, that align both with volcanic activity and the KPG boundary, further complicating a clear-cut attribution. These proxies point to a multifaceted extinction scenario influenced by both impact and volcanism. From a biological perspective, ecosystems stressed by volcanic-induced climate fluctuations may have been less resilient and less capable of recovery, amplifying the consequences of the asteroid collision. Some scientists suggest that prolonged environmental perturbation could explain why recovery from the mass extinction was protracted and why some species experienced staggered extinction timings. In summary, the Deccan Traps debate centers on disentangling the relative contributions of volcanism and asteroid impact. While consensus maintains the impact as the main extinction trigger, the Deccan eruptions likely played a significant, perhaps underappreciated role in shaping the environmental backdrop and influencing the magnitude of biotic crisis during the KPG transition. As research progresses with ever more precise data and sophisticated models, the interplay between these colossal geological events continues to illuminate the complex mechanisms driving mass extinctions. Looking forward, the next chapters will focus on the global stratigraphic markers at the KPG boundary, the iridium-rich layers, shocked minerals, and worldwide fossil evidence that collectively document this profound transition in Earth's geological and biological history. The Cretaceous-Paleogene, KPG boundary, stands as one of the most significant and universally recognized markers in Earth's geological and biological history. This stratigraphic horizon represents the precise interface between the end of the Cretaceous period and the dawn of the Paleogene, approximately 66 million years ago, a boundary defined by a sudden and profound mass extinction event. The worldwide discovery of distinctive KPG stratigraphic markers across multiple continents and ocean basins has been pivotal in piecing together the details of the extinction event that wiped out roughly 3/4 of all species, including the non-avian dinosaurs. Fundamentally, the KPG boundary is identified by a thin but remarkably consistent layer of sediment that contains distinctive geochemical and mineralogical signatures associated with the impact and environmental upheavals surrounding the mass extinction. One of the most famous markers is the global iridium anomaly, a thin clay-rich sediment enriched with iridium, a rare element in Earth's crust but relatively abundant in extraterrestrial bodies such as asteroids and comets. First discovered in 1980 by Luis Alvarez and his team, this iridium-rich layer has since been found in over 100 locations worldwide, from Europe and North America to Asia and Antarctica, unequivocally linking the extinction event to a massive asteroid impact. Alongside the iridium anomaly, geologists have identified shocked quartz grains within KPG boundary sediments. These quartz crystals exhibit unique microscopic deformation patterns, planar fractures, that can only form under the extreme pressures generated by hypervelocity impacts or nuclear explosions. This discovery provides compelling corroboration of the asteroid impact hypothesis, confirming that the Earth's surface experienced a sudden, violent shock at the boundary. Another critical marker found at the KPG boundary is the presence of microtektites, or spherules, tiny glassy droplets created when molten rock is ejected into the atmosphere during an impact and rapidly cools before falling back to the surface. These spherules are globally distributed in sediments immediately above the extinction horizon and serve as tangible evidence of rapid and widespread dispersal of impact debris. The stratigraphy of the KPG boundary often includes a sharp transition in fossil assemblages. Microfossils, such as foraminifera, exhibit abrupt shifts. Diverse and abundant species prevalent in the Late Cretaceous vanish suddenly, replaced by depauperate or new taxa in the Paleogene. This shift is evident in both marine and terrestrial records, signaling a rapid ecological turnover. In terrestrial sediments, changes in pollen and spore profiles reflect widespread alterations in vegetation, marking disrupted plant communities and loss of species, diversity closely corresponding with the boundary layer. Globally, the KPG boundary is evident in both continental and marine sedimentary archives. In marine cores extracted from ocean basins, finely laminated clay layers enriched with iridium and other impact proxies are associated with a steep drop in carbonate shells, reflecting ecosystem collapse due to ocean acidification and reduced photosynthesis. On land, fluvial and floodplain deposits display charcoal layers indicative of widespread wildfires and contain bone beds exemplifying sudden faunal turnover. The Chicxulub crater itself, buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, aligns temporally with the KPG boundary and serves as the impact site responsible for these global signatures. Drilling and geophysical surveys have revealed the crater's size, structure, and age, directly tying the impact event to the stratigraphic and fossil evidence of the boundary. The crater's formation and ejecta distribution explain many of the anomalies and disruption patterns observed in KPG sediments worldwide. Recognition of these global stratigraphic markers has revolutionized the understanding of mass extinctions by providing a precise, datable horizon corresponding to one of Earth's most profound biosphere turnovers. The KPG boundary has become a focal point for interdisciplinary scientific research, combining paleontology, geochemistry, sedimentology, and geophysics to unravel the intricate details of extinction dynamics and recovery processes. Notably, these discoveries have spurred further research into stratigraphic markers of other extinction events, offering comparative insights into patterns and causes of mass biotic crises and resilience. The KPG boundary serves as a seminal example of how distinct geological markers can anchor biological and climatic events within the Earth's rock record. Looking ahead, the next section will explore the patterns of global extinction following this boundary, examining who vanished and who survived, and shedding light on the factors underlying selective survival and extinction during this transformative moment in Earth's history. The oceans in the Late Cretaceous were vibrant, dynamic ecosystems dominated by a stunning array of ancient giants. From the fearsome mosasaurs and plesiosaurs to dense populations of ammonites and varied marine reptiles, The seas supported complex food webs that had evolved over millions of years. But this flourishing marine realm relied heavily on a delicate balance, a balance that the Chicxulub impact and its cascading environmental effects shattered almost instantaneously, initiating widespread marine extinctions that transformed oceans forever. At the heart of this upheaval was the abrupt collapse of primary productivity in marine systems. The ejecta cloud and sulfate aerosols hurled into the atmosphere blocked sunlight, reducing photosynthetically active radiation essential for phytoplankton, the tiny microscopic plants that form the base of almost all marine food chains. With reduced sunlight reaching the ocean surface, phytoplankton populations plummeted worldwide, initiating a bottom-up collapse that rippled through trophic levels, from small zooplankton to large marine predators. Ancient giants such as the mosasaurs, large predatory marine lizards reaching lengths of over 15 meters, disappeared entirely from the fossil record after the KPG boundary. These apex predators depended on a robust ecosystem of fish and smaller marine reptiles for sustenance, populations that themselves dwindled during the chaotic post-impact period. Similarly, the often long-necked plesiosaurs, graceful yet massive marine reptiles, vanished as their ecosystems unraveled. Ammonites, an iconic group of shelled cephalopods with intricate spiral shells, also faced extinction. Once abundant and ecologically diverse for millions of years, ammonites failed to survive the combination of environmental stressors that followed the impact. The decline of ammonites reflects broader disruptions in invertebrate marine communities and serves as a key biostratigraphic marker for the KPG boundary. Other marine invertebrate groups suffered varied fates. Rudest bivalves, reef-building organisms that dominated shallow seas, experienced extensive losses, leading to widespread reef collapse. Certain bivalves, gastropods, and echinoderms showed significant extinction rates, reflecting the broader breakdown of benthic, or seafloor, communities. In contrast, some marine groups showed resilience. Various lineages of sharks and bony fishes persisted through the extinction, and some taxa even flourished in the ecological spaces vacated by extinct species. Early survivors would form the basis for the modern marine fauna that would dominate the new Cenozoic oceans. Beyond biodiversity loss, the post-impact oceans experienced geochemical and physical changes. Acidification of seawater due to increased CO2 and sulfate inputs disrupted calcium carbonate saturation, hampering shell formation and calcifying organisms' survival. Marine oxygen minimum zones expanded, creating widespread anoxic conditions in deeper waters, further stressing marine life. Sea surface temperatures fluctuated dramatically, with evidence of both rapid cooling and warming phases, amplifying habitat instability. These cascading changes are well recorded in sediment cores, where isotopic proxies, such as carbon and oxygen isotopes, reveal sudden shifts in paleotemperatures and carbon cycling linked to the extinction event. Layers rich in organic carbon and evidence of euxinic conditions point to prolonged environmental stresses in marine habitats. The profound loss of ancient marine giants and ecologically crucial taxa delineates a dramatic restructuring of oceanic ecosystems. This marine mass extinction, coupled with terrestrial losses, represents one of the 5 most severe biological crises in Earth's history. However, the extinction also set the stage for evolutionary renewal. The Cenozoic era witnessed the rise of modern marine groups: cetaceans, whales and dolphins, seabirds, teleost fishes, and new planktonic forms that radiated in the ecological opportunities left open by this extinction. Understanding how the oceans changed during this dramatic interval offers insights into the resilience and vulnerability of marine ecosystems faced with rapid catastrophic disturbances, a lesson that remains pertinent today as oceans encounter modern anthropogenic pressures. In the next chapter, we will follow the rise of mammals as they expanded into newly vacated ecological niches, initiating evolutionary experiments that would shape the future of terrestrial ecosystems on Earth. In the immediate aftermath of the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, as the dust began to settle over a dramatically altered Earth, mammals stood poised at the threshold of an extraordinary evolutionary opportunity. Freed from the overwhelming dominance of the non-avian dinosaurs and other extinct competitors, mammals began a transformative journey, diversifying into an array of ecological niches and experimenting with new evolutionary forms that would ultimately shape the modern biosphere. This period, known as the Paleogene, marks the dawn of the Age of Mammals, a sprawling chapter of life characterized by innovation, adaptation, and expansion. Prior to the mass extinction, mammals were generally small, mostly nocturnal creatures that occupied marginal ecological niches around the edges of dinosaur-dominated ecosystems. Their evolutionary potential, however, was vast. With the disappearance of large terrestrial reptiles, many ecological roles suddenly became vacant. This allowed surviving mammals to explore new guises, experimenting with body sizes, feeding strategies, locomotion, and life history traits. The initial phase of mammalian diversification saw an expansion into a broad range of dietary niches. Herbivory became more prominent, with mammals evolving specialized dentition to process foliage, seeds, and fruit. Some groups developed complex chewing mechanisms and extended gut systems to extract nutrients from plant material, enabling larger body sizes. Carnivorous and omnivorous mammals exploited the abundance of small reptiles, birds, and invertebrates. This dietary flexibility was paramount for adapting to the shifting and often volatile post-extinction environments. Morphological innovation accelerated. Mammalian body forms diversified significantly with the evolution of specialized limb structures adapted to varied modes of locomotion. Arboreal mammals climbing trees, burrowing mammals excavating complex underground nests, cursorial forms capable of running fast over open terrain, and even early aquatic mammals venturing into water bodies. Such locomotor diversity permitted mammals to exploit a wider array of habitats, from dense forests and grasslands to wetlands and coastal areas. A dramatic increase in body size occurred during this evolutionary experiment. Beginning from modest rodent or shrew-sized ancestors, several mammalian lineages evolved into species rivaling the dinosaurs' largest herbivores and carnivores. Examples include the massive, rhinoceros-like Uintatheres and Tethystheres, early hoofed mammals that grew to impressive sizes and occupied roles analogous to modern large herbivores. Social behavior and reproductive strategies also evolved. There's evidence that early mammals exhibited increased parental care, social interactions, and possibly complex communication, laying foundations for the diverse social systems observed in contemporary species. Furthermore, the rise of placental mammals, characterized by prolonged gestation and enhanced offspring development, provided a competitive edge over marsupials and monotremes in many ecosystems. Marine and aerial mammals similarly began to flourish. Early whales and sirenians adapted from terrestrial ancestors to life in aquatic environments, exploiting rich marine resources freed from large predator competition. Flight-capable mammals, bats, evolved during this time as well, further expanding mammalian ecological diversity. The diversification of mammals was intertwined with broader ecological shifts. Vegetation changes following the extinction event created new habitats, such as angiosperm-dominated forests and grasslands, providing novel niches. Climatic fluctuations throughout the Paleogene spurred adaptive radiations as mammals adjusted to warmer, cooler, wetter, or drier conditions. This remarkable evolutionary radiation showcases not only the plasticity of mammalian life forms, but also the profound impact of extinction events in shaping biodiversity. The opening of ecological experiments allowed mammals to rise from inconspicuous shadows to become dominant players in terrestrial and marine ecosystems, setting the stage for the familiar fauna of later epochs, including our own. In the next section, we continue by examining the long-term recovery of life on Earth, a tale of forest regrowth, climate stabilization, and the intricate evolutionary pathways that eventually emerged from the ashes of catastrophe, guiding life along new trajectories into the future. In the wake of one of Earth's most profound upheavals, the extinction event that concluded the Cretaceous period, the planet embarked on a remarkable journey of recovery and renewal. This long-term recovery, unfolding over millions of years during the Paleogene period, was characterized by the gradual regrowth of forests, the stabilization of climate systems, and the adaptive reshaping of ecosystems, as life forged fresh evolutionary paths away from the shadows of its ancient catastrophes. Immediately following the mass extinction, landscapes bore the scars of devastation. Charred soils blanketed in ash, ecosystems bereft of their former complexity, and climate conditions oscillating in turmoil. However, amidst this desolation, the foundations for regeneration were laid as pioneering species began colonizing barren soils. Early successional plants, including ferns and opportunistic angiosperms, rapidly established themselves, their hardy life strategies stabilizing the soil and setting the groundwork for ecological succession. The re-establishment of forests was a critical milestone. Angiosperms, or flowering plants, a diverse clade already in ascendancy before the extinction, expanded their ecological dominance, reconstructing forests that ranged from dense tropical canopies to more open woodlands. Pollen and fossil wood records from Paleogene sediments reveal a trajectory of increasing plant diversity and structural complexity, signaling the return of habitats capable of supporting complex food webs. Parallel to terrestrial changes, marine environments also exhibited signs of recovery. Phytoplankton populations gradually rebounded, reconstituting the base of oceanic food webs and aiding in carbon cycling that contributed to the stabilization of atmospheric composition. Coral reefs and benthic communities re-emerged, albeit over longer timescales, illustrating nature's resilience even in the face of prolonged environmental change. Climate played an instrumental role in shaping recovery trajectories. After the initial impact, winter, and volcanic perturbations, global temperatures gradually stabilized, cycling through warm phases such as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, PETM, a pronounced transient warming event that influenced species distributions and evolutionary innovation. These climatic shifts prompted both challenges and opportunities for evolving organisms, driving migrations, extinctions, and radiations. Ecologically, the recovery period was marked by the radiation of mammals and birds, groups that seized newly vacated niches and diversified explosively. Mammalian lineages expanded in size, morphology, and ecological role, encompassing herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and specialists adapted to varied habitats. This period also witnessed the emergence of early primates, ungulates, and carnivores in distinct evolutionary experiments that laid the blueprint for modern mammalian diversity. Avian evolution flourished as well, with many bird groups adapting to terrestrial and aquatic environments, developing specialized feeding, flight, and reproductive strategies. These evolutionary trajectories underscore how life was not merely recovering, but innovating, exploring ecological forms and functions previously inaccessible. The interplay between biotic recovery and abiotic factors, soil development, nutrient cycling, hydrology, and atmospheric chemistry, induced coevolutionary dynamics that gradually rebuilt the Earth's biosphere. New symbioses formed, predator-prey relationships were re-established, and primary productivity increased, fostering more intricate ecosystems. Recovery was not uniform or quick. It unfolded as a mosaic of regional variations influenced by geography, climate, and residual agents of environmental stress, including ongoing volcanism and fluctuating sea levels. Some ecosystems recovered faster, while others remained impoverished for millions of years, reflecting a complex, protracted rebound. Ultimately, the long-term recovery following the KPG extinction event reshaped life on Earth profoundly. It bridged the ancient Mesozoic world with the burgeoning Cenozoic, an era where mammals would come to dominate and ecosystems would take on familiar modern structures. The resilience and adaptability evidenced during this chapter illuminate a fundamental truth about life: a capacity to endure, adapt, and evolve even after near-catastrophic upheaval. As we proceed, we will explore the modern scientific techniques, ranging from fossil analysis and isotopic studies to computational modeling, that allow researchers to trace and understand this extinction and recovery with ever-increasing clarity, deepening our insights into Earth's dynamic history and its ongoing story. Unraveling the story of Earth's most dramatic mass extinction, the event that ended the reign of dinosaurs 66 million years ago, demands an intricate toolkit of modern scientific techniques. These tools allow us to peer back through deep time with remarkable precision, piecing together clues locked within rocks, fossils, and isotopes to reconstruct the sequence and causes of extinction. Through the integration of paleontology, geochemistry, stratigraphy, and computational modeling, scientists have forged a comprehensive narrative of the Cretaceous-Paleogene (KPG) boundary event and the profound transformation it unleashed. At the heart of this endeavor lies the fossil record, the direct archive of past life. Advances in excavation technology, imaging methods such as micro-CT scanning, and meticulous stratigraphic correlation enable paleontologists to identify subtle changes in species diversity, morphology, and distribution before and after the KPG boundary. High-resolution fossil sampling across multiple globally distributed sites reveals patterns of sudden disappearance of numerous species: dinosaurs, ammonites, marine reptiles, and the survival and evolution of others. This data provides a temporal framework to pinpoint extinction timing and explores biogeographic variations. Isotopic analysis has revolutionized our understanding of environmental conditions linking to the extinction. Techniques tracking stable isotopes, particularly carbon, D13C, and oxygen, D18O, within fossil shells and organic matter reveal shifts in global carbon cycling, ocean temperatures, and climatic trends. For instance, abrupt declines in D13C values correspond to disturbances in primary productivity, reflecting photosynthesis shutdown post-impact. Oxygen isotopes serve as thermometers of past seas and air, recording temperature fluctuations induced by volcanic emissions and impact winter. Radiometric dating techniques, especially the highly precise argon-argon 40R39R method, have refined the timeline of the Deccan Traps volcanism and Chicxulub impact. These dates constrain the onset and duration of volcanic eruptions with remarkable accuracy, allowing scientists to juxtapose volcanic phases against extinction intervals. Such temporal resolution clarifies debates on interplay between volcanism and impact. Geochemical fingerprinting using trace elements like iridium and mercury also aids in identifying layers corresponding to impact ejecta and volcanic emissions globally. Electron microscopy and X-ray diffraction analyses detect shocked quartz and microtectites, Microscopic glassy particles formed during high-energy impacts, highlighting the impact event's magnitude and widespread distribution. Computational modeling stands as a pivotal pillar in tracing extinction dynamics. Climate models simulate the atmospheric consequences of aerosol injection and greenhouse gas fluctuations due to volcanism and asteroid impact, projecting temperature changes, reduced sunlight penetration, and acid rain formation. These models help estimate the duration and severity of the impact winter and volcanic winters, correlating climatic stresses with extinction pulses observed in the fossil and geochemical records. Ecological and evolutionary models employ species distribution, life history, and trophic interactions to assess vulnerability and resilience patterns. They simulate how fragmented habitats, resource scarcity, and climatic fluctuations influenced survival probabilities of taxa. These models illuminate why some groups, such as small mammals and birds, survived, while others perished. High-throughput sequencing and molecular clock studies, though extending mostly into more recent periods, help calibrate evolutionary timelines, corroborate fossil evidence, and uncover lineage divergences in surviving groups. Together, these techniques map the ramifications of extinction through deep evolutionary branches. The integration of these multidisciplinary methods offers an unprecedented holistic understanding of the KPG extinction event. They illustrate how discrete lines of evidence from rocks, fossils, isotopes, and simulations converge to unravel a complex narrative of sudden calamity, staggered environmental perturbation, and ecological rebound. As scientific techniques advance, including novel isotope systems, improved dating precision, and enhanced computational capacity, our capacity to reconstruct and even predict Earth's responses to rapid environmental change grows. This knowledge not only enriches our comprehension of past events, but also informs contemporary perspectives on biodiversity loss and climate challenges. Moving forward, we will place the KPG extinction in the broader context of Earth's history, comparing it with other mass extinctions to draw lessons about planetary resilience and vulnerabilities, and reflect on their relevance to the current age. Throughout Earth's vast history, life has faced numerous catastrophic events that reshaped its evolutionary trajectory and altered the fabric of our planet's ecosystems. These mass extinctions, periods marked by the rapid loss of a significant proportion of species, provide critical context for understanding the Cretaceous-Paleogene (Chicxulub) extinction and offer vital lessons for the present and future. By placing the KPG extinction event in the broader spectrum of Earth's catastrophic episodes, we can better appreciate both the resilience and fragility of life, as well as the forces driving global change. Earth's geologic record identifies 5 major Big Five mass extinctions alongside several smaller pulses of biodiversity loss. Each event exhibits unique triggers, biological impacts, and recovery patterns, yet they share themes of rapid environmental upheaval and widespread biological crisis. The End Ordovician mass extinction, approximately 443 million years ago, ranks as the planet's second-largest extinction. Triggered by a brief but severe ice age and associated sea level falls, it primarily impacted marine life, particularly brachiopods and trilobites, underscoring how climatic shifts can imperil ecosystems dependent on stable oceanic environments. The late Devonian extinction, around 360 million years ago, was protracted and episodic, with marine fauna, especially reef-building organisms and jawless fish, experiencing major losses. Hypotheses for causation include global anoxia, volcanic activity, and asteroid impacts, highlighting complex interactions between biotic and abiotic factors. The End Permian extinction, approximately 252 million years ago, was the most devastating event, eradicating around 90 to 96% of marine and terrestrial species, often attributed to massive volcanic eruptions in the Siberian traps releasing greenhouse gases. This extinction profoundly reorganized life on Earth, emphasizing the interplay between volcanic activity, climate change, and biosphere collapse. The end Triassic extinction, roughly 201 million years ago, cleared many reptilian groups and enabled dinosaurs to rise, reflecting how mass extinctions can pave evolutionary pathways for new dominant clades. Causes potentially include massive volcanic activity coinciding with climatic fluctuations. The KPG extinction, our central focus, marks the most recent of these great extinction pulses and is distinguished by its trigger, an extraterrestrial impact. As we have explored, this event resulted in the abrupt end of non-avian dinosaurs and significant marine and terrestrial biotic turnover. Beyond these grand events, numerous minor extinction pulses punctuated the geologic record, often associated with smaller-scale volcanic eruptions, climate perturbations, or bolide impacts. These smaller crises shed light on Earth's dynamic environment and its influence on life's ebb and flow. Studying mass extinctions provides crucial insights that resonate today. The drivers of past extinctions, including rapid climate change, ocean acidification, habitat destruction, and atmospheric alterations, have modern analogs in anthropogenic activity. We witness accelerating biodiversity loss, climate crises, and ecosystem disruptions paralleling conditions observed in the fossil record. Furthermore, the patterns of extinction and selective survival inform conservation biology. Traits such as body size, reproductive rate, ecological flexibility, and habitat range affect species' resilience to change, offering guidance for preserving vulnerable taxa. Mass extinctions also underscore life's regenerative capacity. Recovery phases, while often prolonged, showcase adaptive radiations and evolutionary innovation, illustrating nature's persistent drive. By framing the KPG extinction within this broader context, we recognize it not as a singular anomaly, but as part of Earth's ongoing story of transformation. History teaches that while life is remarkably robust, it is vulnerable to rapid perturbations. Understanding this balance is essential as we navigate current environmental challenges. In our final section, we will reflect on the legacy of the dinosaurs, their extraordinary reign, spectacular demise, and the pivotal role their extinction played in ushering in the Age of Mammals, a world that set the stage for human evolution and modern biodiversity. The extinction of the non-avian dinosaurs, while marking the end of an era, also set the stage for a profound rebirth and transformation in Earth's biological history. Their disappearance opened ecological niches that had been occupied by these dominant reptiles for over 160 million years, thereby paving the way for mammals and other groups to diversify and become the new masters of land, sea, and air. The legacy of the dinosaurs is thus not one of mere loss, but of transition. An evolutionary turning point that shaped the modern world and its astonishing biodiversity. Before their extinction, dinosaurs were the dominant megafaunal herbivores and carnivores in ecosystems worldwide, imposing evolutionary pressures on plants, other animals, and even on climatic patterns through their activities. Their diverse and specialized forms filled essential ecological roles, from the towering, long-necked sauropods that impacted forest composition to the fierce theropods shaping prey dynamics. Their sudden removal created a power vacuum in terrestrial landscapes, drastically altering food webs and ecosystems. Mammals, which until then had mostly remained small and ecologically marginal, seized these opportunities with remarkable evolutionary vigor. Freed from the threat of dinosaurian predators and competitors, mammals expanded rapidly into new habitats and lifestyles. This adaptive radiation saw mammals evolve into a wide array of forms: grazers, carnivores, arboreal specialists, aquatic mammals, and eventually the primates, including the ancestors of humans. Birds, the avian lineage of theropod dinosaurs, survived this extinction, and likewise diversified, filling ecological niches once occupied by flying dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and other aerial creatures. Their evolutionary journey from post-extinction survivors to the vast array of modern birds is a testament to adaptability and resilience. The impact of dinosaur extinction also resonated in marine ecosystems. With the demise of marine reptiles such as mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and other large predators, new groups of fish and marine mammals began to proliferate, reshaping oceanic food chains and biogeography. Beyond biology, the dinosaur extinction event influences our understanding of Earth's fragility and the interplay between geological and biological systems. It underscores the interconnectedness of life and environment and the profound effects sudden changes can inflict on global ecosystems. Culturally, dinosaurs captivate human imagination, inspiring scientific inquiry, education, and a fascination that links us to the deep past. Through them, we explore concepts of extinction, adaptation, and the cycles of life across deep time. In summary, the legacy of the dinosaurs transcends their dramatic disappearance. It is embodied in the evolutionary pathways illuminated in the fossil record, the modern biodiversity shaped by their extinction, and the lessons about resilience and change that inform our present understanding of life on Earth. As we reflect on their reign and demise, we appreciate how their extinction was not an end, but a beginning, the foundation of the age of mammals, and ultimately, the evolutionary context in which humans emerged. Thus concludes our immersive journey through time, a voyage that reveals how Earth's dynamic history shaped life's extraordinary tapestry, inviting us to ponder our place within this unfolding, continual story.